Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. It is a loaded Tuesday across the Big 12 Conference. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We've got Taman, our producer over there. Opening night of college basketball in the books. The Baylor women start fast with a top 10 win. Arizona men roll past Florida in Vegas. BYU's freshman phenom A.J. Debonsa lights up Villanova. But tonight, Ari, the first college football playoff rankings of the season. Who's in, who's being disrespected, potentially, and will a Big 12 team elevate into that top tier? We've got you covered today from both ends, football and basketball. A couple of great guests with us. Justin Spears will join us in about 20 minutes from ESPN Tucson to talk about Arizona. And then Talia? Is that right, Taman?
Yes.
Talia. Talia.
Like you're reading hieroglyphics. Or something. Is this? How do I say this?
Talia.
Sound it out.
The I got me. Talia Goodman, who is the daughter of the great Jeff Goodman, covers women's basketball from On3 Sports. She's going to join us. Big 12 today. We're powered up. We're fired up. I'm going to give you a fist bump because we forgot to do that before the show. What's up?
We do that anymore still?
I think we do.
I don't think we do. I think that went
time
out.
to time.
I think that went out with our former producer who stole things from the company.
It just feels right to fist, connect in that way.
You want a hug? You want a hug before?
No,
the
just
show?
a little fist bump.
Okay,
a little
so
skin to skin, knuckle to knuckle.
Hugs too much. Fist bump is just enough. I feel like we got to come up with something new. Maybe like a very elaborate handshake.
Okay.
Maybe we can do the gritty. We can do kind of like a team gritty before.
You don't strike me as a guy who gets down with the gritty.
Why?
Because you've got get off my lawn energy.
Huh.
Which we've discussed at length.
Well,
If you see a kid doing the gritty, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
it's a cool dance. Like to do that myself.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm wrong.
Very wrong.
Very wrong.
You've got me totally pegged incorrectly, and not only am I not against the gritty, I am very pro gritty.
You're team gritty.
I am team dance until you drop.
I've never been more surprised.
Well,
I thought you'd see a kid doing the gritty and you'd say, I want to punch that kid in the face.
do you say that?
Sometimes.
How many punching kids thoughts do you have on a daily basis?
I will punch that baby.
You big into punching kids, or?
Huge. It's flannel season, as you
Okay.
can see.
Yeah, I could see.
Fresh off my shift at the Home Depot.
Thank God you've got the neutral colors on your flannel,
Right.
because otherwise I wouldn't. I'd be shocked to see any sort of color.
Neutral all day, every day.
Got to go neutral.
But today,
The color of the modern world. It's basically everything's black and white except for the televisions.
I wanted to feel like we were sitting around a campfire. Campfire vibes today on Big 12 today. So I decided to dress like Paul Bunyan
Yeah, I could see that.
for the college football playoff reveal.
Huge day today.
Huge day, big day. So the college football playoff, the initial batch comes out tonight. And remember, way back before the season, we were talking with, I think it was it Rich Clark or somebody made the comment that, the college football playoff committee, they're going to start meeting a few weeks before tonight. So they've apparently been meeting, if that was true, for several weeks now. But the comment was made that they start watching the games then. And our first thought was, well, what about the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season? Are they watching then? Because they should be. So what do you think the college football playoff rankings look like tonight? What will be best case scenario? What's worst case scenario for the Big 12?
So I think a couple of things to what you just said there. First off, let's start with this process. Okay, so I guess you could wonder who else would be better to come up with these rankings, but you do have very high level administrators, athletic directors that have very busy jobs with lots going on. All of their job revolves around it being internal. Now, I'm not suggesting that they aren't watching the games. I'm assuming that they get these games in clips. They also get a binder full of notes.
So much data.
that it begs the question, why do we have people doing this? If the people are just regurgitating what they're reading in these binders, then it makes no sense whatsoever that these are the people that are then compiling the top 25. And while Rich Clark told us we do not go off of the AP top 25, historically speaking, they're awfully similar because they're using similar metrics. And again, trying not to be so far of an outlier, right? It's more of like this is what the crowd thinks, this is what other people think, so we should go with this too. So it's a horrible system. I wouldn't even say it's the best of what we could possibly have, like what they say in democracy is, right? It's the best of all of the rest. I don't even think that's the case with this either. I think it's a horrendous system that counts on people that are far too busy to be really watching these games, internalizing how good these teams are, the players on the teams, and they instead use data and analytics that are guiding their decision-making, which robots would be far more capable of doing.
Which I think you could make the case that the AP voters have too much on their plate, and they don't have enough time, enough hours in a weekend to watch all of these games. And
it just perpetuates itself, right? It's the same groupthink that gets us the same numbers.
Yeah.
And the same teams.
It's the human element.
Yeah.
So if you look at Bill Connolly's SP Plus ratings, which is, in my eyes, the Ken Pom of college football, and there's a lot of different ratings, analytical guys out there, and their ratings are all pretty even. But it's very different from the AP Top 25. So is the college football playoff rankings tonight going to resemble more that or more the AP Top 25? Like the AP Top 25 has their top 10, but the SP Plus ratings has Texas Tech at number 4, Utah at number 6, Notre Dame at number 7. Those are all teams where the SP Plus likes them much better than their actual AP Top 25 ranking. Now, the bad news for the Big 12 is the analytics aren't as high on BYU. Okay, BYU's undefeated. They're 8-0. They're in the top 10 of the AP Top 25. I think they're, number 8 this week? Well, SP Plus has them at number 16. So there's pros and cons to both, but you're right. Historically, it's been pretty even with what the AP looks like.
So take your guess here. Do you think that the Big 12 ends up closer to 4 and 6 or to 8 and 9?
Definitely 8 and 9.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see where they put BYU, because last season, and Texas Tech, obviously, but more so BYU because they're undefeated. So last year's first rankings release of the college football playoff, you had BYU at number 9. Remember, BYU was undefeated this time last year. I keep talking about Iowa State and their 7-0 start. I keep forgetting that BYU, because they lost 2 out of 3 to end the year, they started 8-0. So BYU was number 9. Boise State was number 12. Like, of the 12 teams in the initial poll last year, 9 of the 12 ended up making the field. So, 75% of that poll is what the final poll looked like.
Well, I would imagine the differences there would be like a Clemson won the ACC, so they weren't part of that initial 12. So my guess is a part of the misses in that were just based on conference champions. Mm-hmm. Arizona State was not a part of that. They won the conference championship. They got the automatic bid. Clemson was not a part of that. They got the ACC. They got the automatic bid. There's 11 of 12 now based on the 9. Right. And then the last one would be the Group of 5 champion, which was not. No, it was
Boise State was in.
Got it.
Yeah. So the 3 teams that were in the first ranking last year that didn't make the field were Miami. Remember, they had kind of a late season collapse. They lost 2 games. BYU. And then Alabama. And remember, all the fuss that came from Alabama getting left out is essentially, I think you could make the case, a big reason why we're even discussing expanding the field this season. Going into next year, whatever that looks like. The December 1st deadline is looming. I don't think anything's going to get done.
But then who are the 3 teams that weren't in that initial ranking that made it? Arizona State, Clemson, and
SMU.
SMU
is the other one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm really intrigued by what they do with BYU because they're undefeated. And are they going to rank them higher than anybody with 1 loss that's above them in the AP Top 25? That's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, so I guess at some point we'll all head up to Mount Sinai and see what the Lords have bestowed upon us in terms of the 10 Commandments and or the top 12 teams in the college football playoff or top 25.
So real quick, in light of this, the College Football 26 video game, they just updated all their player ratings, and so the ratings are more reflective of what's actually happened this college football season. So I wanted to run a simulation. I ran a bunch of sims yesterday, on the show when we were doing the scenarios of if these teams went out in the Big 12 and who plays for the title. So I did it on this video game, and it had Texas Tech winning the national championship.
Wow.
Beating Indiana.
But didn't that happen early? Like, wasn't that the initial?
Yeah, Max Olson ran a bunch of simulations, and it
20
had Texas Tech winning the national championship.
Over who? Do you remember?
I think it was somebody. It was one of the powers. It was like an Ohio State or a Georgia.
It wasn't
like
Indiana,
that.
was it?
No, it wasn't Indiana. I mean, Indiana wasn't even on the map before the season.
If Texas Tech played Indiana in the national championship game, it would be the most wild thing to ever happen because those are two teams that are not part of the blue chip ratio. So, right, like it's always been thought that teams that had at least 50% of their roster being 4 or 5-star recruits over a 4-year period would win national championships every year because that's what's happened. So for those two to not be there and to meet in the national championship would be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a huge breakthrough from a parity standpoint
Oh, yeah.
in college football. Because what that says is basically like the Ohio States, the Georgias, the teams, the Alabamas, the Texases, the teams that recruit at the top, I already said Ohio State, Michigan, the teams that recruit at the top of the food chain are only going to win national championships. Mm-hmm. And as good as you can accumulate a team or bring a group together and have an Indiana or Texas Tech, you're never going to win. So it'd be a huge breakthrough for the sport itself.
I just think somebody winning it this year outside of what there were like, you had this stat several times this summer, like 6 teams have won it in the last 20 years. Like there's not been a lot of variety in college football.
Yeah.
Let's just get some variety. Let's get a 7th team. Huge night last night in college basketball. I'm James on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Arizona takes down Florida, the defending champs, 93-87. Bradley was phenomenal. The freshmen were good. KU hung 94 on Green Bay. BYU got a little bit of a scare against Villanova, but then it felt like when they needed to turn it on, they just flipped a switch in that game. The Baylor women get a top 10 win over Duke, the first top 10 win on opening night on the women's side for the Big 12 since 2009. With all that said, by the way, Darren Peterson is really good.
Well, and move over Darren Peterson and A.J. Debantza because here comes Koa Pete at 30 points in his debut, and he was dominant. I mean, he's the reason that Arizona won the basketball game. He and Gerard Bradley, who had 27 on 14 shots. And then Arizona nearly gave this one away as they had issues inbounding the ball and turning the ball over late. I mean, they were up 3 possessions late in this game and somehow ended up, only having to sneak by with free throws. So Tommy Lloyd's got to work on some inbounding plays and not turn the ball over late because that nearly cost them the game. I think the big story from last night, aside from what we saw the freshmen do with A.J. Debantza, Koa Pete, and Darren Peterson, was TCU losing at home to New Orleans.
Yeah.
They were down 20 points in this game multiple times, and they did end up making a run to make it close. They got the ball. They had the ball. They had 2 tries from 3, down 2 points with under 30 to play, and missed both of those shots. TCU was 3 of 27 from 3.
Oh.
Probably too many attempts from 3, and especially, again, you get the ball inside 30 seconds, down 2 when you've shot like less than 10% from the floor from 3. Work it in. Get a 2. Extend the game. Made no sense to me. They took 2 3 attempts in that spot and ended up losing because of that. It was Pierre short, and then Harding was off. Didn't need a 3, took a 2. And then there were some games that were a lot closer than maybe we expected. Taman Turner's Hofstra Pride gave UCF a run.
Shout out Speedy Claxton.
UCF won
Roll Pride.
82-78. That game was about Kugel in the first half and Folks in the second half for UCF. Utah survived 84-75 over San Jose State. Sidhu Traore, 23 points. Utah hit 10 of 25 from 3. And then Colorado survives over Montana State 84-78. Isaiah Johnson, another freshman. Talk about freshmen. How about this guy under the radar? 24 points, and 22 of the 24 came in the final 15 minutes for Colorado to put away Montana State. So those were the close calls. Milan Momcilovic hit 7 threes and scored 29 in Iowa State's win, 88-50 over Fairleigh Dickinson. They held Fairleigh Dickinson to 32% shooting. Houston rolled Lehigh. Kelvin Sampson gets his 800th win. Houston was plus 13 on the glass, and Lehigh was held to just 37% shooting. So yeah, I think that pretty much takes care of what we saw on the men's side for the most part. Again, blowouts across the board, with the exception of TCU losing at home to New Orleans, which is a dreadful loss for them to start the year. Colorado close with Montana State, and Lehigh close Hofstra close with UCF.
The other team that got off to kind of a dicey start, I think they were down by like 16, was Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor was down early. UTRGV.
Yeah, Rio Grande Valley. But they turned it on in the second half and pulled
Another
away.
freshman, Tunde Yesufu, with 24 points.
Baller.
10 shots made, and Darren Peterson scored 22 points for Kansas in 21 minutes.
He is insane.
Yeah, it's hard to stop him getting to the rim. Like, he's pretty much get to the rim at will. He is so fast and powerful. Like, he's just a combination of speed and strength.
And smooth.
Yeah.
He's so smooth. Like, he looks like a walking bucket every time he gets the ball. There's just like, he would get a touch, and it's like, okay, he's going to score.
There's going to be a ton of talk this year nationally about this is the best freshman class ever, and pretty good case to be made for that, obviously, after just one game, but certainly based on projections. I mean, you look up and down the board for the first games of the season, and freshmen had tremendous impacts. I mentioned Isaiah Johnson at Colorado, Koa Pete at Arizona, Darren Peterson at Kansas, AJ DeBance at BYU, Traore at Baylor. So, not Traore, excuse me. Yesufu, thank you. It's names of guys that used to be in the Big 12 that now are
right.
are new. Fusili Traore is now Sidhu Traore.
Yes.
And Joseph Yesufu is now Tunde Yesufu.
And they're not the same person. Real
No.
quick before the break, Taman, I want to hear what Koa Pete, who hung 30 on the defending champs, said about his performance. This is Arizona's freshman.
I think those helped me a lot for sure. Just getting on the floor, Mikal, playing a live game. But I think what really helped me was just the practices. We practiced really hard throughout the week, leading up to this game, and I think I'm just grateful to have coaches and teammates that put me in positions to be good, and especially JB. Like, he just makes my game so easy. I think, like what Coach said, piggybacking on that, he's one of the best point guards in the country, if not the best point guard in the country.
Koa Pete had 30 last night, the Arizona freshman. I also think him playing summer in the Summer Olympics, coached by Tommy Lloyd. Didn't Tommy Lloyd coach this summer with Grant McCaslin?
Yeah.
Like, that had to help.
Well, and think about, I don't know that we talked enough to Tommy Lloyd at Media Days about the freshman class that he's coached many of. But I thought Pete was the most surprising because it wasn't just that he scored 30, it was the fact that, Florida's missing 3 guys that are in the NBA now, but that's still a very good team. They're third in the preseason ranking.
They had Boogie Fland, who transferred from Arkansas. They still had their big guy, Thomas Hawk. Like, they had dudes.
Yeah, and, he was the best player on the floor by far. Mm-hmm. I heard Tommy Lloyd, he was on the field of 68 after the game, and he said he reminds him of Larry Johnson. I thought that was a great comp. Like, super athletic, big, really big body, like, good luck down low. Like, Florida has one of the best front courts in college basketball, and, he made them look tiny as a 19-year-old or whatever he is. So I can't keep track of these guys are 18 or 19.
Larry Johnson from UNLV and the Charlotte Hornets, or Larry Johnson from Penn State and the Kansas City Chiefs?
The basketball player.
Oh, the basketball Larry Johnson.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, UNLV running Rebel. Yep.
Love it.
That one.
Justin Spears around the corner. He covers all things Arizona for the Tucson Star and ESPN Tucson. We'll chat with him about Arizona's big win. Might touch on some football as well. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, streaming live on Big 12 Studios. Join the chat via our YouTube channel on the Big 12 Conference and Big 12 Studios page. He's Ari, I'm James, chopping it up on a Tuesday. We welcome in Justin Spears, who covers Arizona for the Tucson Star, also host of Spears and Ali, 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Tucson. That's Mountain Time this time of year. Justin Coapete, dude, like he is him. Division I basketball players in the last 30 years to have at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals, plus a block in his college debut. Coapete. That's it. He had a historic night last night.
Man, wait, you're telling me that guys like Zion Williamson didn't do that when they made their college debut? It's really impressive, man. I mean, Coapete. Like you said, man, he is him. And he came out of high school as one of the best prospects in Arizona history. He won 4 state championships. He was the 3-time Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year, McDonald's All-American. I mean, when you look at him, he's a very physically imposing guy. He does not look like a freshman. He looks like he should be playing at the next level right now. But, he is a freshman. And I was wondering, how that was going to translate going up against some heavy hitters like a Florida. We're going to see them eventually go up against Alabama and Auburn and UCLA, and they got a big one on the road against UConn. So the non-conference schedule is very hard for Arizona. And I was just wondering how an 18-year-old Coapete would look going up against these guys, and he looks like a man amongst boys. I mean, this guy is a legitimate prospect. He could play above the rim, and he's also, I think, a really good passer too. I think that's one of the more underrated components of his game. Finished with 5 assists. He had just as many assists as Arizona's starting point guard to go along with 7 rebounds and 30 points. So, just a spectacular performance. And, people talk about A.J. DeBonsa from BYU being that top guy from the Big 12, and rightfully so. I think that guy's going to end up being the number 1 overall pick. But, man, Coapete looks like a legitimate prospect, and he looks like, he could be one of the top players in college basketball. And I thought Arizona really did a nice job of setting the tone for the rest of the season.
Did it surprise you what he was able to do last night?
Somewhat. Like, the turnaround jumpers that he was knocking down, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I've seen that before, but I didn't know that was a consistent part of your bag. So I was a little impressed by his mid-range game, and I think he's also a really good defender as well. I mean, to settle in as a first-year guy and to play with that sort of physicality and to show that athleticism, it was just very impressive. Like I said before, this is a guy that's 18 years old, but he does not look like a freshman. This is a guy that looks like he's ready for the next level. And, now that, Coapete set the tone, I'm curious to see how that's going to, move for the other guys. Guys like Braden Burries didn't really have the greatest debut. Braden Burries was 1 for 6 from the field, got into some foul trouble. But, I mean, if you look at the exhibition games and if you look at the early parts of this season, I mean, Braden Burries looks like a guy that could lead Arizona in scoring. He's a guy that can finish with his left hand. He can, he's a multi-level scorer. And so I think when it's all said and done, man, Braden Burries, Coapete, even Ivan Karchenkov, the European that no one really was talking about going into this year, to see him come in and have 12 points and 10 rebounds, have a double-double in his first action at Arizona. I mean, the freshmen right there, those 3 guys that are starting right there in the middle, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I feel like Arizona, they have a really good squad this year.
Arizona is such a unique, I think, style of basketball. They scored 93 points and only attempted 5 threes. In fact, they only attempted 1 3 in the second half. Like, you just don't see that in today's game. So how would you describe their style of play?
I mean, compare it to Florida, who went 7 for 27 from the field, right? In Arizona, they were, 2 for 5 from the field? And like you said, keyword attempt. They only attempted 5 3-pointers. And they have 3-point shooters on their team, but, I mean, they just got some really good high-low action from their guards and also their front court. And, another guy that I, haven't really talked about much, but Mo Krivas, I think, 6 points, 8 rebounds, I think is a solid first official game back since coming back from his injury. But, when you add in Mo Krivas' size and just kind of what he can do, when you add in the versatility of Koa Pete, the toughness of Toby Awaka, and so many others, like Anthony Delorso, he was really kind of known as the three-point specialist. And then in the offseason, he went in and put on like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle, or at least looks like he did. He really spent a lot of time building up his body so that way he can embrace the contact and get into the lane and draw contact or just finish strong at the rim. And, I mean, if you look at it right here, they attempted 38 free throws. They were 31 for 38. I thought they were pretty solid at the free throw line. And, I mean, Florida was giving them those looks near the rim, and also give Arizona a ton of credit too, because a lot of those points they had to earn it as well. I thought Florida, they didn't make it easy for Arizona, but Arizona found the open looks. They do a nice job of moving the ball around. People cut to the basket, people drive to the basket, and this is an Arizona team that, if they show that they can knock down 3-pointers and have those kind of games, that this is a team that could beat you in multiple ways.
I don't know if you have any more basketball questions. I wanted to talk a little football.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I was going to ask about Jaden Bradley.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 27, and we were just watching some highlights on Big 12 Studios. When he gets to his right and he gets downhill, there's not a better finisher, in my eyes, in the country. And again, this is your point guard who didn't attempt a single three, but went 9 for 14 from the floor, got to the foul line 10 times. I just think he's so underrated as a point guard.
Yeah, and he's also really underrated as a defender. When he first got to Arizona, if you look at his first year after transferring from Alabama, he had a really impressive NCAA tournament run. And I think the last game that they played in his first year, he had like 3 blocks and 3 steals in that tournament game. I think he's a really underrated defender. And he had a couple of steals last night in that game against Florida. And then when he's able to get downhill and play fast, he's a very smart decision maker. Sure, he had 3 turnovers, but I think that all in all, he's a very efficient point guard and a guy that's, I mean, he just doesn't really make a lot of mistakes, and he's also a really good defender too. And he can, find his pockets and really know when to go and put his head down and get to the rim. He's a very patient guy. And now he's in year 3 under Tommy Lloyd. This is really kind of like the longest tenured point guard that Arizona's had under Tommy Lloyd, because when Tommy first got to Arizona, he had Kirk Kriisa, and then it went to Kylan Boswell, and they only, he had those guys for a couple of years, and then with all due respect to them, they kind of flamed out and then ended up transferring from the program. Or a guy like Jaden Bradley, he has stuck with it for the last 3 years and has turned into one of the leaders of Arizona. And, I agree with Tommy Lloyd and company. The fact that Jaden Bradley isn't considered a top 20 point guard in the country, when you look at all these preseason watch lists and, the preseason accolades and the awards, Jaden Bradley's name is nowhere to be found. And it's kind of disrespectful to the guy, considering, he was, thinking about going to the NBA draft last year. This is a former McDonald's All-American. This is a guy that's been talented every step of the way. And going into this year, Jaden Bradley was kind of slept on. But you know what? I think that's the case for everybody at Arizona, because if you look at the preseason all-conference team, you don't see an Arizona Wildcat anywhere. When you look at the preseason rankings, they were 4th in the conference. And, I mean, the Big 12 is good, right? There's from top to bottom, it's the best conference in college basketball. But I do feel like this Arizona team, they kind of feel like they're slept on a little bit, especially a solid point guard like Jaden Bradley.
All right, let's talk football. We've got the Bowl Eligibility Bowl here on Saturday between Kansas and Arizona, 2 teams that are, I don't know, mid-pack, Big 12. What's your read on this game? And then what's your feeling on where Brent Brennan's standing is?
Man, they really needed that game last week against Colorado. Like, they really needed that. And now they go into this week, it's homecoming, and they have a chance to become bowl eligible. And right now, the thing that has impressed me about this team is just I guess their ability to continue to play hard and play hungry and play physical. They kind of got bullied against BYU and Houston. A lot of power quarterback runs, and Arizona just had no answer for it. And I know Colorado is a little bit of a different beast. They don't have the powerful quarterbacks like a Connor Wegman or a Bear Bachmeier, but Arizona just took it to them. Now, the one thing that I also will add is that we've seen Arizona have leads and then just kind of piss them away. Arizona got up on Colorado and never looked back. I thought that strip sack by Chase Kennedy in the first quarter, which set up Noah Fafita to get the touchdown. I mean, that was really good complementary football. They had 5 takeaways in that game. Noah Fafita, the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, had 4 touchdown passes. So it was really just perfect complementary football, and they did not allow Colorado to get into that game and feel like they have some life. They went on the road, and they just ripped the soul out of Colorado. And the road has been an issue for Brent Brennan. I mean, going into that game against Colorado, they were 1-6 under Brennan. And they also got smacked around a lot of those games. For them to go on the road and beat Colorado 52-17, I mean, they had never scored 30 points on the road under Brent Brennan, and they went out and they put up 52. So that was a very dominant performance on both sides of the ball. And now you got a chance to become bowl eligible and get that monkey off your back. This is the perfect opportunity just to get to that 6-win threshold, get over that hump, and then you could go on a streak because Baylor, I think that's a beatable opponent for Arizona. ASU, shout out to Jeff Sims, rushing for over 200 yards in that big win over Iowa State. But ASU without Sam Levitt, I think, is beatable for Arizona. Cincinnati on the road, that's going to be a tough sell. Just because the Bearcats are so good. Brennan Sorsby is a dual threat quarterback and is one of my favorite players in the Big 12. In November in Cincinnati, that's going to be a really tough challenge. But if you look at the other 3 games remaining, this is an Arizona team that can win all 3 of those games. But this week against Kansas, they got to do a good job because one thing about Jalen Daniels is that he does not turn over the football. 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this season. Arizona, they have more takeaways at this point of the year than they had all of last year. They have 18 takeaways. They are tied with BYU for the most interceptions in the league. They've been turning over the ball, or they've been taking away the ball a lot this year. That's been, kind of their MO. Can you do it against a Kansas Jayhawks team that does a really good job of taking care of the football? That's going to be the one thing that I'm looking forward to. But, yeah, homecoming, 1:30 afternoon kickoff. It should be a fun one down here in Tucson.
Justin, you saw Arizona and BYU a few weeks ago. Who do you like this weekend between BYU and Texas Tech?
Oh, man, I have no idea.
Okay.
I really don't. Just because – BYU is just so physical up front, and Bear Bachmeier is just such a dog. But I also feel like BYU might be due. They've been just kind of, getting by lately, going up against a Texas Tech team that, just got their first loss, and they're, kind of playing pissed off right now. Mm-hmm. They have their sights set on getting to the Big 12 championship and getting to the college football playoff. So, just for, what I've seen over the last few weeks, I'm going to side with Texas Tech, but this BYU team is really good, and it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled out the win.
Yeah, first batch of the college football playoff rankings coming out tonight. Justin Spears covers Arizona football for the Tucson Star, co-host of Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson. Appreciate your time. Always great to catch up.
Hey, thanks, guys. One thing to look forward to, Noah Fafita could pass Nick Foles for all-time touchdowns this weekend, so pay attention.
How many does he need?
He needs 3. He's at 65 right now. Nick Foles and Willie Tuitama, they have 67. So could be a big week for Noah Fafita. Could be making history.
Man, that pass he had right before the half against Colorado, he put that on a rope.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, gave Javon Watley no room,
right,
or barely any room to get that toe tap. He's a very impressive quarterback, and coming off the winning Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, he could make history this week. And then next season, he's going to be gunning for that all-time passing yards record. So Noah Fafita continuing to make history. So look out for that.
Wait, he still has eligibility next year?
Yeah, he's definitely going to come back next year. And in my opinion, just because his brother Dash Fafita is committed for 2026, so he would like to be teammates with his younger brother, and then could come back next year and kind of smash all of Arizona's passing records.
Oh yeah, he'll crush him.
What does Dash play? What position?
He's a linebacker. Yeah, all the Fafitas. Noah's the only quarterback of the family. All the other Fafitas, like Steve Fafita, was a defensive lineman for Utah, played for the Miami Dolphins. His dad, Les Fafita, was also a linebacker growing up as well. Like the Fafitas are a defensive family, and then they got their shining quarterback in Noah Fafita.
Oh yeah, he only played 3 games his freshman year. He'll get that red shirt back.
Yep.
Wow, awesome stuff. Today I learned Noah Fafita's technically a junior. All right, Justin, appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate the time.
Justin Spears covers Arizona football, basketball, all the things for the Tucson Star, co-host of Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson. Coming up next, we look at the Big 12 Weekly Awards. This is Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you by Modelo, here exclusively on TuneIn and on Big 12 Studios.
Daniel.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. Brewed for those who give everything on the field, on the court. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. He's on social at Ari Sports, A-R-I Sports. I'm on social at James Westling. Time now to go through the Big 12 weekly award winners. We've still got more basketball talk on the way, more college football playoff talk as the initial rankings come out tonight. We'll look at the AP Top 25 and how it might compare to tonight's rankings. More on the Big 12 hierarchy throughout the rest of the program. All right, time to hand out some hardware. The Big 12 announcing its Week 10 football award winners. Another massive week across the league. Offensive Players of the Week, Arizona quarterback Noah Fafita had 4 touchdowns, just 19 passing attempts. Colorado was no match for Arizona. They went on the road and got a 52-17 road win, which had been the Achilles heel for Brent Brennan. They finally get, in some ways, I know Colorado's 3-6 now, but we didn't know if Arizona could win on the road, and they answered that question in a massive win.
Yeah, and very quietly, Noah Fafita is putting together an extremely good season here, and so I think what we have on Saturday here when I'm referring to the Bowl Eligibility Bowl, both Arizona and Kansas looking for one more win to get to Bowl eligible. I think a huge part of that is, I don't know, has Arizona's season been a disappointment? Has Kansas's season been a disappointment? I would say Kansas is probably more so than Arizona.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 teams that are, looking to solidify their spot, get that 6th win. I think when you look at Kansas's, the rest of their schedule, Iowa State and Utah after Arizona, no gimmies there. So, for Lance Leipold, it's extremely important that he wins one of these final 2. And, the Fafita-Jalen Daniels matchup is going to be dynamic.
And I think the winner of that game is going to feel a sigh of relief. Okay, we got to bowl eligibility.
Yeah.
But the loser, it's not going to feel good. KU would be 5-5. Arizona would be 5-4. Both teams are looking at their upcoming schedules. Arizona's next game is at Cincinnati, who is still in the top 25. Does KU play Iowa State next?
Yeah.
So, there's no easy path for either of those teams. All right, the other offensive player of the week, shout out Jeff Sims. He was one of 2 recipients of our Big 12 Today Players of the Week. He had 400 yards of total offense, over 200 on the ground. Became the first Big 12 quarterback to rush for over 200 since Vince Young in the Rose Bowl back in 2006. Also had an 88-yard touchdown run, which was the second longest in Arizona State history.
Not many teams been able to successfully run the 3-3-5 defense, but Iowa State, who invented it, has been very good at it, and I think this year it has blown up in their face, the loss of these 2 corners. They lost a ton of linebackers last year. It didn't bother them as much as it has this year. Credit Jeff Sims, an incredible performance by him. And certainly one that I think in all of his years in college football that he was waiting for a moment like this. So credit to him for that. But I think this story is way more about Iowa State's defense and how bad they were. But let's see. Can Arizona State carry it over and continue winning? Because somehow, some way, without Sam Leavitt, they could stay in the picture. And we don't know the long-term prognostication for Jordan Tyson.
Defensive Players of the Week went to West Virginia's Fred Perry. Some new blood there. 13 tackles, had a sack. That West Virginia defense forced 4 turnovers in their win over, at the time, number 22 Houston. Huge road win for Rich Rod. And how long can we hold it over Taman's head that on our rundown he called Jacob Rodriguez Jack Rodriguez? I think till the end of time. Jacob Rodriguez, who might be the only defensive guy in the country that I've seen on some of these dark horse Heisman watches. 2 more forced fumbles. They both led to touchdowns. He leads the nation with 7 forced fumbles on the year.
I've got 2 Jacks and a Jake on my 7-year-old's baseball team, so that is very confusing.
Thanks for calling me out there.
Constantly referring to Jack as Jake and Jake as Jack and Jack. There's 2 Jacks and a Jake. It's hard. I get it. But, yeah, Jacob Rodriguez is the defensive player of the year in the Big 12. He forced 2 fumbles in the game on Saturday. Obviously, 2 huge fumbles that proved costly for K-State. He is disruptive. He does not miss tackles. He's sideline to sideline. He may be the best defensive player in college football.
Here's what his coach, Joey McGuire, said about him maybe getting some Heisman talk.
Well, one, he is, he is the captain. He is vocal at times, but he's not like this, rah-rah guy. And this Heisman race is really unique. You usually have a couple guys that really jump out and are leaders in the race. And man, I feel like we got 2 defensive guys that could easily be in the mix for that. I mean, if you look at the level that he's playing at for tackles, but the impact he has on games, like once again, he's taking a ball away and this time he takes it for a touchdown. But I don't know who, whenever you look at the Heisman race right now, who's the no-brainer. And so it's been a long time since we've looked at a defensive player as a possible guy. But man, I look at the Heisman also as what does that person mean to their team?
A la Travis Hunter, Colorado, last year.
Yeah, could it be 2 years in a row with a defensive player to win the Heisman? And obviously with Travis Hunter, it's both, but I love it. I mean, you need your coach to vouch for you. They need people to be watching him because, he, as much as they've improved on defense with the portal, and they have, and especially with those rush ends, it just makes what Jacob Rodriguez is doing that much more heightened.
Yeah, he's insane. And he's like a quarterback on the field, but on defense, because he played quarterback his entire life, even his freshman year at Virginia. Special teams players.
By the way, Virginia is leading the ACC right now, in case you're wondering.
With Chandler Morris at quarterback on his 17th school, Virginia. Special teams players of the week, Mana Carvalho from Utah, freshman special teams returner, had a 75-yard punt return to the house against Cincy.
All right, since you called out Taman, what'd you call him?
I just zipped right through it, hoping you wouldn't notice. Okay, that's what we do.
Red-handed.
Caught red-handed.
If you wouldn't have said anything to poor Taman about Jake and Jack.
Yeah, take that, James.
So what we do is we own our mistakes, Taman. We had a team huddle before you joined us, and we said we are going to own our mistakes when Ari went on a 15-minute spiel about Brendan Mott and how impactful he's going to be for Kansas State this season, even though he graduated last year. And I almost, during this segment, thought maybe I should throw it to Ari to give us our special teams player of the week. I know Stone Harrington, the Texas Tech.
I love that you glossing over this dude's name. What'd you call him?
Mana Carvalho. Utah. He's a returner.
You had to bring up Brendan Mott again. I love that you're like, hey, if you're dragging me down, I'm going to also drag everybody else down.
We are going down together.
New segment. You see what happened.
Carvalho.
Thank you.
Yeah. I see you watch the Utah game.
Mana Carvalho.
Somebody get my man a Modelo so he could be a full-time fan like the rest of us.
I did watch the Utah game. Thank you very much. Until I fell asleep because it started
at 9:15.
Yeah, Central Time.
That's 70-year-old James.
Thank you.
So, do you make it to halftime, James, or?
Yeah, about there. I made it to halftime.
It was a Saturday night. I don't know.
It was a Saturday night. I had a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old in the room with me. Okay, we were vacationing at the Holiday Inn. Freshman of the week, Scotty Fox.
By the way, you couldn't find anybody at the hotel to help you? You're finding people all across town helping you out. Single dad with 2-3 kids.
Right? Walked around town. People thought I was rescuing puppies. It was amazing. But no, not at the hotel. Yeah. Hey, can you just watch my kids? Hang out with them for a little bit? I'd like to chill in the lobby, watch the game.
Find another wife.
Freshman of the week, Scotty Fox. 3 total touchdowns. Really a story of redemption because he played in that Pitt game earlier in the year. Had some turnovers, didn't look great. Became the first true freshman quarterback in school history to rush for multiple touchdowns in a game for West Virginia since 1952.
Yeah, someday when Scotty Fox is leading West Virginia to a Big 12 championship, we'll look back at that first performance when he threw 2 picks and 3 passes as the moment that he arrived. But yeah, I mean, I think this to me solidified the future of the position at West Virginia. This is a guy that came in as a potential guy down the road, highly heralded recruit, true freshman, and I think he put it together in this game. Look, I mean, it's not the most incredible performance you've ever seen, but this is now 3 different true freshman quarterbacks have won this award that we've renamed the Bear Bachmeier Award. So we saw Bird Ficklin do it for Utah last week, and now Scotty Fox here this week.
Yeah, he was a 4-star by Rivals, and then a 3-star by ESPN and On3 and 24/7. But Rivals had him listed as the number 8 dual threat quarterback in the country. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, everything I read, high 3-star, whatever you want to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he has a good pedigree. He's got good size. I think this is QB1 for the future here at West Virginia.
1952. How about that?
And by the way, we will be talking with Rich Rod for tomorrow's show, and I'm so excited to ask him about Scotty Fox.
Offensive and defensive lines of the week. Offensive line, Arizona State, no sacks allowed, 290 rushing yards. Sims had the historic day on offense, and a lot of it had to do with that Arizona State offensive line. Defensive line, Utah held Cincinnati to 14 points and just 33% passing. That was their best mark against a 30-attempt quarterback in 8 years.
It felt like what we've seen in previous iterations of when like a Big 12 team goes up against an SEC opponent where like we think the Big 12 team's really good, and then they go up and like they just get smacked by an offensive and defensive line that's flush with NFL players. Mm-hmm. That's what Utah's win over Cincinnati felt like. It's like, yeah, that's cute. Like, you guys are playing well. And they were, but it's the offensive and defensive lines of Utah that completely controlled this game and have the majority of the season. Like, there are very few teams in the Big 12 that can match what Utah has on their offensive and defensive fronts.
I think there's only one.
Yeah.
Texas Tech.
Yeah.
They already played.
Maybe BYU.
Yeah.
And
that
obviously
game was
BYU.
a coin flip.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next as we head into hour number 2 here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Want to remind you that if you missed any of our guests, we're going to have Rich Rod on the show tomorrow. We'll also have BYU head coach Kalani Sitake sometime this week as they get prepared for Texas Tech. And if you missed them live, you can go back and listen to any of those interviews on our Big 12 Radio podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, right here, tune in on demand. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, Big12Studios.com, the Big 12 Fast channel. We're streaming live on YouTube. Our Big 12 game of the week this weekend, we've got a doubleheader. BYU at Texas Tech, you'll hear right here on Big 12 Radio. Starts at noon Eastern, and then followed by Kansas and Arizona in Tucson at 3:30 Eastern. We are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. We're talking college basketball opening night around the corner. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. 12 today on Big 12 Radio and streaming live on your screen on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We are 2 days away from just being 1 month out from the Big 12 championship game, the Big 12 football championship, which is at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on Saturday, December 6th. And John Pardee will perform at the halftime show. He is the Big 12's first country music headliner. It'll be broadcast on ABC. He'll also be joined in the performance by the marching bands from both schools, whoever's there. There will be a party pit of premium experience in front of the stage with tickets available to purchase through SeatGeek or Big12Sports.com.
How do we get you in the party pit? Those are two words that I would never associate with you.
My life is a party pit.
I live in a party pit.
I live in a party pit with a D, not a T. Every day is a joy. Every day is a party.
Can I defend James here for a second? I don't think that James is a big party guy, but I feel like when he parties, like he goes in. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it happens.
You're not wrong, Taman.
Yes, he is.
You're not wrong, Taman. Ignore what he said.
I think it doesn't
You're not
happen.
wrong.
It might happen once a decade, but
Once
when
a
it happens, it goes in.
It goes all in.
Yeah.
It goes all in. See, I like this
What was the
persona,
last- well,
this
when-
persona, this perception that you guys have built of me, and I'm just leaning all into it. Okay? Leaning all in.
Once a decade. So when was the last major party we saw from James where James was...
Like incoherent.
It doesn't even have to necessarily be
What do you describe
drunkenness.
as? Yeah, what are you describing?
Just out past 10. Maybe having a few Modelo's.
Out past 10? This guy every day of my life.
11. 12. 1.
I feel like
2.
Hang on, timeout. Timeout, pump the brakes. You know, it's probably been this summer.
And by the way,
summer?
this is not a bad thing. You're 40. I'm 40.
Yeah.
I'm the one making bad decisions pretty consistently.
We get up very early for this show. I need my rest.
That's right.
I cannot function on a certain, number of hours of shut-eye. Trying to think the last time.
It's been a while.
Here's the deal. My wife and I, we used to have dirty martinis every night.
I thought you were about to say something totally different.
Dirty martinis.
Every night.
Every night. And we did that for over a year. And it got to the point where you build up such a tolerance that, like, one martini became 2 martinis, and then
Sure.
it became 3 martinis a night. And I just realized that I was feeling bad. I was feeling sluggish the next day. Not like in a state of drunkenness every night necessarily. Some nights, yes. But I realized once we stopped, we were just like, man, I feel like way better. Feel really good waking up. Like, this is pretty nice. And so we just, like, stone cold turkey, stopped. That's it. That's the story.
Makes sense.
Why are you guys looking at me like that?
What a rebel.
I can't tell if you don't believe me or if...
Well, yeah, I mean, A plus B equals C, right? Like 1 plus 2 equals 3. Yeah, like weird. I drink martinis every night and I wake up not feeling great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I stopped doing that and now I feel bad.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a magic
Right,
Johnson
yeah.
Right. And
tweet.
so it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
maybe-
you're the Magic Johnson of Twitter right now here.
Exactly. Right. Whoever wins game 5 usually wins wins the series, guys.
I mean, that would have actually been a better comment than what Magic said.
What did he actually say?
Something like, it's important to win the next game. Like
when the series is tied,
the series is tied 2-2.
well,
it's-
usually the team whoever usually goes up 3-2 usually wins the series.
I don't even think it was that. It was more like, it's important to win the game.
Oh, that's amazing.
Winning games is important.
That's a banger. That's an all-timer. But yeah, that's where we sit on that whole deal.
That's perfectly fine. There's not, like, I'm not being judgmental. I hope you know that.
I sense a lot of judgment.
It shouldn't. I mean, you're the one that's going to be living longer than me. It's clear. That's clear. Just based on sleep, by the way. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, the daylight savings has really messed me up, though.
Yeah.
Like, man, the last 2 days, I've been up, like, before 4 and struggling to go back to bed. So I just get up. Wander around the house, have 16 cups of coffee, pray that the kids don't wake up. Like, I'm shushing the pets. It's got me all off. I'm all off. You know who wasn't off, though, last night? The Baylor women, the BYU, Arizona men's basketball teams, as college basketball kicked off last night. And the Big 12, really in a lot of ways, I know we're going up against Monday Night Football and it's a Monday and all that, but the Big 12 had the stage when it comes to college basketball. Like, the only top 25 matchup last night was Florida and Arizona. Arizona wins. The next most marquee matchup was BYU and Villanova. BYU wins. And then same thing on the women's side with Baylor. First opening night top 10 win for the Big 12 since 2009 as they take down Duke. A little afternoon matinee edition over in France yesterday.
Yeah. Was there Monday Night Football on last night? I have YouTube TV, so I don't know.
No comment.
And was extremely happy that the Arizona-Florida game and the BYU game were both on TNT. It worked out very well for this YouTube TV user. Super happy that two major conglomerates can't get together, and yet they screw the consumer. Way to go. So I'm sort of in a holding period with my television habits here because I have the NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube, so I really am unable to do anything until the season ends.
So you rely heavily on YouTube TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that fun? So happy that Disney and Google have come together to screw consumers. Way to go.
Yeah. That's not great.
Yeah.
Man, we've got a tremendous story of redemption. I know Houston didn't win by 40 last night. They beat Lehigh. I think the final was like 18 or 20. But looking at what they got from the freshman, Chris Sinak, looking at Emmanuel Sharp, looking at Milos Uzan, they started another freshman with Sinak on the wing and Jennings, who was expected to come off the bench, but he's been that good in practice. They gave him the nod. And then JoJo Tugler, the reigning defensive player of the year in the Big 12. I think that team's going to win the national championship. Like, I know injuries can happen, and it's a long season, all that. But if that team stays healthy, I just think that is the storybook ending to Houston's redemption story. And Emmanuel Sharp and The Athletic has a great piece about heartbreak and humility and the grind that he's went through for this upcoming season.
Yeah, CJ Moore, who does a great job for The Athletic in covering college basketball, has a piece basically on something we've been talking about, which is the motivation for Houston coming out of the loss last year in the national championship. And look, I mean, we've talked a ton about this as a subplot to the season for Houston with Milos Uzan. I mean, he's the reason that Houston played in the Final Four, but did not play well in the Final Four. And Emmanuel Sharp played well, but obviously in the final game did not play well, and especially was not able to get a shot off. And so the piece that CJ wrote is basically centered on, how Emmanuel got over it. And not just that, but how his teammates or former teammates have talked to him about it. I mean, he basically wrote about how he and Ramon Walker and Jamal Shed got together this offseason, and, Shed essentially brought it up at some point, and maybe it's a human defense mechanism, whatever it is, it's just kind of like the way it goes, right? We there's guilt, there's all different kinds of feelings. And, for Sharp had a great season last year. It was up and down. He had injuries. He was in and out of lineup. But, I mean, Houston doesn't play for the national championship without the contributions of Emmanuel Sharp.
Yeah.
And yet he's reconciling that with the fact that the way that they defended him on that final play didn't allow him to get a shot off. So, again, I think it's a great piece by CJ Moore. My main takeaway is, this stuff matters. Motivation like that matters. I think when we looked at national championship teams in the past, Virginia loses to Fairleigh Dickinson, first ever 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed and then go and win a national championship. Baylor and Kansas are two teams that were so good in 2020 when the season was cut short before the tournament that they used that as motivation to win national championships. So, we think so much about the play on the court and the players and the talent, and that's there for Houston. To me, they're the favorites to win the national championship. And if you're looking at anybody else, I don't think you're looking deep enough to what the psyche of a team that felt like they should have won the championship last year and didn't. I think there are probably 3 or 4 national championship contenders in the Big 12. I think at this point we think they're Houston, Texas Tech, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas. But time will tell. The season will play this thing out, and those teams will solidify themselves. But one thing's for sure, Houston is a title contender. I think Tech is too, and probably Arizona as well. So at least those 3, at least today, we could say probably are. But to me, Houston should be the favorite to win the national championship because of the motivation piece, which is something isn't exactly easily measured like stats and metrics are that define success.
Right. And totally agree. And when you look historically at who wins the national championship, like Florida last year, they were the outlier. They were pretty good the year before, but they weren't Elite 8, Final 4 good. But before that, historically, Virginia losing to a 16 seed that you brought up, Kansas and Baylor. I mean, Kansas was the favorite to win the national championship when COVID hit and they shut down the tournament, so they win it 2 years later. Baylor won it the next year. And then
with virtually the same team in 2020 that was also very good.
Even Purdue gets bounced by a 16 seed. The next year they're playing for a national championship in that game. So Houston is right there. And man, this Emmanuel Sharp stuff is amazing. Like, he had that turnover in the closing seconds that was a costly turning point in the game that kind of, even though Houston had the ball and didn't get a shot off, in a lot of ways sealed it for Florida when they rallied from down by 12 with less than 10 minutes to go. I mean, Florida did to Houston what Houston did to Duke 2 nights early.
And what Houston did to a lot of teams in the Big 12 all season long.
But they don't get there without him. He averaged over 17 points a game in the Big 12 tournament. He was named tournament MVP. He was named Midwest Regional Most Outstanding Player. And then, like, the aftermath, which is the behind-the-scenes stuff that's not out there. Like, he had to delete social media, and he deleted it for weeks because he was being mocked online, and even some threats came in. And you think about his career and what he's had to overcome. A broken fibula, a dislocated ankle in high school that once threatened his career. Missed some time last year for Houston mid-season. And then this offseason, their first summer workout, he was the first one to arrive. He's leading this group from the front. He dropped 12 pounds, which he is still big and strong. He broke the team's sprint records in their offseason conditioning program. Like, he is fearless, which is what his coach Kelvin Sampson said in this article. They are going to trust him. He is their go-to guy, and I think is going to have another all Big 12 type season.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about Houston's success. I mean, they lost 1 Big 12 game last year, both in the regular season and in the conference tournament. And this is supposed to be the best conference in America, and they've made a mockery out of it. They've had, and Emmanuel Sharp specifically, a unbelievable amount of success at Houston, and yet this is what's being written about. This is what's being thought about. Right? I get it. It's a big moment. It's the national championship. It's the one thing that Kelvin Sampson hasn't done, and so it stands out. But if you think about all of the successes that Houston has had, that Emmanuel Sharp has had, and to not be able to let go of that feeling, it's not something he'll ever be able to let go of unless he wins the title this year. Mm-hmm. And I could see him holding the trophy up on the podium saying, I was motivated by what went down here last year. We felt like we had that taken from us. I think Houston's the favorite to win the national championship this year for that reason and that reason alone.
And it's so early. Like, I don't want to be sitting here and, I love us putting this into the universe because this team is stacked and they're not going to lose by beating themselves. The only thing that I think will prevent them from that is if they have unforeseen circumstances totally out of their control. But their physicality, the way games are called in the NCAA tournament, because the NCAA and these television partners don't want a bunch of games that are won or lost at the foul line, so they let them play. And then, like Kelvin Sampson players, their production gets better and increases every year that they're in the program. Jamal Shedd, you can go back to Fabian White, like every single guy, Marcus Sasser, Quentin Grimes. Every year that you're in that program, the next year, a guy's numbers are even better. That's why Emmanuel Sharp went from a 36% three-point shooter to a 41% three-point shooter last year. So you anticipate the uptick that's going to be there from Sharp and Uzan and Tugler, and this team is unstoppable. Both ends of the floor. They're always good on defense, and offensively, I think, once again, like they were last year, they're super underrated. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Coming up next, we'll touch on the AP Top 25 college football. Want to get into this Baylor women's basketball win as they take down a top 10 Duke team. And then where were we wrong? Some preseason predictions that have not held up for Ari and myself. This is Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Of today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. Last night was not a good night for TCU. Their men's basketball team loses to New Orleans. Their women's soccer team, we just had one of their players on. Seven Castaigne joined us last week. They were the number 1 seed going into the Big 12 soccer tournament. They got upset by BYU, who is the 8th seed in the Big 12 women's soccer tournament. But Jamie Dixon and TCU, they get beat at home 78-74 against New Orleans last night. Do you want to take a shot at what New Orleans' record was last season? They're from the Southland Conference.
Oy.
Do you know this number?
No, but I'm assuming it's not very good.
Ari, they were 4-27. Like, that has to really suck for Jamie Dixon. Opening night, and you're just like, man, our team's just not very good.
Well, and they're down 20 multiple times in this game, and they did have a nice run at the end to keep it close, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to win many basketball games where you shoot 3 of 27 from 3. You probably shot too many threes. In fact, there's no probably about it. TCU had the ball under 30 to play, down 2, and attempted 2 threes in that series. I get it, but I don't, because it's 3 for 20. You're 3 for 27. Mm-hmm. I think if you're Jamie Dixon, after the first miss, you may want to call a timeout and just like, hey guys, we don't need a 3. We can't hit threes. We are well off. I mean, they were 3 for 26 to that point from 3. So, yeah, that's a devastating loss at home to open up the season to a team that had 4 wins last year. I guess the hope here is that New Orleans is dramatically improved. But, yeah, some of the teams that the Big 12 played last night felt like an NFL Sunday with Green Bay and New Orleans, and
yeah,
it was just some weird college opponents. Like, my 7-year-old has enough struggles trying to figure out like pros versus college. Like, whenever we're watching like an NFL game, he's like, "What about if the Bears play Kansas?" And I'm like, "You're not getting it. You're not getting it." And so and then showing him the basketball game last night, he's like, "But I thought Green Bay," and I was like, "Oh God, they also have a college." I get that this is confusing.
It is. It is.
And they wore
confusing.
green, so it was like, "Oh, they're not the Packers, though."
What
Don't
other
worry.
color would they wear? They're Green Bay.
Literally any other color.
Red.
Yeah, it's true. They are Green Bay.
Like, I know Jamie Dixon is a phenomenal basketball coach, and he will get the most out of that team, but you just don't have the dudes when you lose a game like that. And to your point, jacking up threes in the final minute, David Punch was their best player on the floor last night. He had 19 points back for his sophomore campaign. So, yeah, that one's tough. Everybody else looked really good. BYU looked good. KU looked good. Cincinnati got a 30-point win. Arizona takes down the defending champs. Houston was Houston. Everybody else dominated in the Big 12. Colorado got a little bit of a scare by Montana State, but they lost some games like that in the non-conference.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think
last year.
So I know we've talked about this a little bit, but so this game is not devastating for TCU in terms of making the tournament, right? I mean, it's one game. It's the first game. There's going to be 30-plus more. But these games in the non-conference going a long way in deciding how many Big 12 teams will get into the tournament. Because remember, you're setting in motion what your number will be at the end of the year in terms of the quad 1, quad 2 wins. Right? So how you do in the regular season, and especially the non-conference, because once you're in conference play, you're playing each other, so you can't do a ton to strengthen each of these wins. So the reality of the situation is the Big 12 will have in every conference will have a good sense of how many teams will be getting into the tournament by the end of non-conference play, simply based on how good their non-conference record is, which will then dictate what a quad 1 or quad 2 win is. It's because then you get to the end of the year, and all anybody can talk about is how many quad 1, quad 2 wins you have.
Yep.
And when you're playing conference games that are consistently quad 1 or quad 2 games, those losses don't hurt you. right? If you have a loss to a quad 1 team, it doesn't hurt you, as much as a quad 3 win does. So it's a long way to say that, like, as unimportant as some of these early season games are, and they are because there's so many more left, you have a ton of ability to make up. What the Big 12 does in the non-conference goes a long way in help dictating how many teams get into the tournament because of what's the metric called? It's not quad 1, quad 2. It's isn't there like a name for it?
No, I mean it is quad 1, quad
Okay.
2.
I don't know if there's like another
quad 4.
I don't know if there's like another like more simplistic.
Yeah, no, they're like quad 1 wins. What's your quad 1 win and loss record?
So that sets in motion everything.
Yeah.
So we may not know the teams, but we'll know how many teams or around how many teams will make it based on how well the Big 12 does in the non-conference. And the Big 12, great start, but I mean the Arizona wins is a big start, but losing to New Orleans doesn't help a ton.
Right. RPI, maybe that's what you were looking for, which is still is considered to a degree, but more so it's what does your overall resume look like with your quad 1 record. On the women's side, Baylor takes down Duke. Number 7 Duke, 58-52. It was the first time that a Big 12 team has beat an AP top 10 opponent in their season opener since 2009. And it was the first time a current Big 12 member has done it since 2005, which was also Baylor when they beat Georgia. What does that say about Baylor and the women's basketball side of things in terms of their preseason poll, who we expect to be really good?
Yeah, I mean, I think aside from the New Orleans game, you had some close calls. Ultimately, like the biggest takeaway that I had from last night's games were we're talking about the women's side. I'm sorry.
Baylor women. Like,
got it.
Are they the
I thought you were talking about the
now?
Baylor men for a moment. I was going to say the biggest takeaway that I had from the men's side of games last night was the freshmen, more than anything. But yeah, I mean, look, Nikki Collins been in a tough spot since she took the job because the standard at Baylor is so absurd.
Yeah, she took over for Nick Saban, basically.
Right. And so, like, you take over a program that has won multiple national championships, and I mean, that's just a tough standard to uphold. I mean, they'd won everything Big 12, it felt like, and were, constantly preseason expectations to win national championships. And Baylor's been very good. They just haven't been competing towards, winning national championships as they were under Kim Mulkey. So I think this is the type of win that can get them there because, I mean, you look at the scores from last night, like, women's basketball is so lopsided.
K-State won 100-35.
I mean, Oklahoma State 109-48 over New Orleans. I mean, West Virginia 83-47. So that's the standard in women's college basketball. So, like, you've got to be one of the top 4 seeds. There's just rarely upsets. And, I mean, basically, like, unless you're a top 4 seed or one of the top 2 seeds, it feels like it's really hard to break through and make it through. So I think that's what Baylor's goal has to be. I think it's what Iowa State's goal has to be. I think if you think you're a national championship type team out of the Big 12 on the women's side, you've got to be one of the top 4 seeds because you want to avoid playing the behemoths until the Final Four. Mm-hmm. You want to control your own destiny by beating up on the lesser teams in the tournament because there's just rarely upsets, unlike the men's tournament, which has tons of upsets. There's way less parity in women's college basketball.
That was a marquee signature win for a Baylor team that really got hot towards the end of last season. Didn't go as deep as they would have liked in the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that had to do with an injury and a not 100% healthy Little Page Bugs for that Baylor team.
Yeah, and here's Talia Scott, who came over as a transfer guard, 24 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in her debut. I mean, the expectations for Talia Scott were high. Here's what Talia Scott said following this win for Baylor in France.
It gives us so much confidence to come out here. First game of the season, first game we really played together besides the scrimmage, right? And so being able to come out here and see that this is a product that we could put on the floor, and it's the first game of the season, we can only get better from here.
The other thing is, it's first game, you're a transfer. We think about like Haley Van Lith last year and how much, the offense was built around her strengths. Here's what Talia Scott said similarly about what Baylor has done here.
Yeah, all credit to my teammates and to Coach Nikki. I think Coach Nikki did a really great job of getting us into actions that we would be successful in. And then credit to my team. I think everybody played their role amazing tonight. I think if you were the one to screen, Kyla, Bugs, all of them were setting great screens. Our post setting great screens. Jana was getting the ball to me in the perfect spots. Right, it was just a team effort, and it all started defensively. I think we came out, set the tone defensively, and we got good stuff on offense.
And Baylor women remind me offensively of the BYU men, just in terms of the way they space the floor, very guard-oriented, even though they do have quality bigs. I mentioned Little Page Bugs. But the way they space it, the way they shoot it. And with that said, last night, they were 3 for 15 from 3 and still beat a top 10 team in Duke 58-52. So that tells me that they were locked in defensively. And also, to your point about Coach Collins, she deserves a tremendous amount of credit because Baylor won the second half. Like, they were down at halftime. They outscored Duke 14-10 in the third quarter. And then they held Duke to 9 points in the fourth quarter. Like, they were the better conditioned team. They were the more physical team. They won the rebounding 51-40. So they had a huge advantage there. They had 20 offensive rebounds. Like, a lot of that comes down to your physicality, grit, hustle, and they only led for 10 minutes the entire game. Like, Duke actually led 26 minutes in this contest, and it was tied for the remaining 4. So that to me, I think you could make a case that even after just one game, like, Baylor, you could argue, is in the conversation to be the new favorite in the Big 12 on the women's side because they were that close to TCU last year. And granted, we don't know much about TCU yet other than they're super talented. But Baylor, I should say, looks the part.
Well, and now they come home and play again Sunday. Luckily, it's against Lindenwood. But, I mean, it's a quick turnaround, right, to play overseas and then come back and have to play another basketball game. This isn't like traveling across the country. This is traveling across countries. So I'm with you. Impressive win and a great showcase for the conference to start the women's basketball season where there's just so many games that are 85-36. Iowa State beat St. Thomas 85-36. Oklahoma State beat New Orleans 109-48. K-State beat Omaha 100-35. So what a showcase for this conference on a night when you just don't have very many competitive games.
Why do you think it is that way? Is it because the talent level just isn't as deep when it comes to women's basketball, and there just aren't that many of
I think
6'2", 6'3" post players that can handle and can get up and down the floor?
Yeah, I think they're hoarding more of the best players at the top programs. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Baylor, the first Big 12 team to beat a top 10 team in their season opener since 2009. History was made last night. Big 12 football talk coming up next. He's Artie, I'm James. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios at Big12Studios.com, the Big 12 Fast channel. You can catch us on your screen, on your Roku device, Amazon Prime Video. We're on DirecTV, YouTube, many other avenues. Our games of the week this weekend on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. BYU at Texas Tech, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. Kansas at Arizona, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time. Big 12 Radio is brought to you, the full-time fan, by our good friends at Modelo, and we might need some Modelos when we look at where we were wrong. So I was looking at the preseason AP Top 25 for college football. Texas was number one. Like, the season's not even over. We're at week 11, and the AP preseason Top 25 is just bananas. Penn State was number 2. Clemson was number 4. Notre Dame was number 6. LSU was number 9. Miami was number 10. So not only do you have almost half of the preseason top 10 teams not even ranked in this week's poll, but how about 2 of the preseason top 10 teams with coaching vacancies when it comes to Penn State and LSU, and maybe a third depending on what happens with Dabo at Clemson. So, Ari, first let's get your thoughts on that.
I mean, I wonder how much different it would be this year than in previous years. It feels like there's always misses in the preseason AP Top 25. It's a big reason why they probably shouldn't do a preseason ranking, or at least, again, why if you do a preseason ranking, you shouldn't start over once the season starts, as opposed to, well, this team who I had high expectations for lost, so I'll move them down a little bit. No, you should probably move them out and just restart what you do. I mean, I think the instructions for the AP Top 25 should not be, every week adjust based on the outcome of these games, but restart. Hit the reset button. We may have missed guys or teams after the first week of the season, so let's restart. I think that, if you're going to have a preseason ranking, to me, you need to have it restart after the first week because so many things change and expectations change. And I think, once again, preseason rankings are indicative of this. I mean, how many teams – give me the top 10 again.
So the top 10 preseason featured Texas number 1, Penn State number 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4, Georgia 5, Notre Dame 6, Oregon, Alabama, LSU, Miami. Like 4 of those teams at least. Penn State, Clemson, LSU.
Florida State, Miami.
Like none of those teams. Miami's still ranked, but they're like 19th.
Yeah, but how many are in the top 10 still? Notre Dame is not in the top 10. Only Ohio State and Georgia?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I could have told you in August.
Oregon's the other one, sorry.
Is Oregon in the top 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So I could have told you in August that at least 2 of those 3 would be ranked in November in the top 10. Ohio State and Georgia.
Right.
By the way, I'm going to call it. November of 2026, Ohio State and Georgia are going to be in the top 10.
Yes.
November of 2027, mark it. Ohio State and Georgia are going to be in the top 10.
And I'd say Oregon now and Alabama and Texas. Like, we could fill out a preseason top 25 for next year.
Yeah, but the preseason, I'm saying in November, Ohio State and Georgia are going to be in the top 10.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of them.
Right. But last year, like this year's been even worse. I mean, before the season when the AP Top 25 came out, Brett McMurphy and we had guys on the program that were breaking this thing down, and historically, like half of the teams don't even end up ranked in the final poll. But this year's been even worse compared to last year. Like last year, Florida State was the big one. They were preseason number 10. They won 2 games all season. But this year, not only do you have almost half of the top 10 preseason not even ranked, but you have 2 coaches who have been fired mid-season because their teams have been that bad. And it was the first time ever that preseason number 1 and preseason number 2 weren't even ranked by week 4 or whatever it was when Texas and Penn State had both dropped out of the AP Top 25 early on in the college football season. So with that said, when we look at our internal, because the Big 12 didn't put out a preseason college football poll, but we had our own internal kind of thoughts on the conference. And where these teams would finish. Time for us to eat some crow.
Okay.
What was because we like to pat ourselves on the back when we get things right, but we also, I think, need to eat a little bit of crow from time to time. Not too much, but a little. Where was your biggest miss?
Well, Baylor. I think that's obvious. Looking through my win total preseason expectations, I was pretty right on with most of them. I mean, I had Houston hitting the over. I had Utah hitting the over at 7.5. I had TCU hitting the over at 7.5. Houston hit the over at 5.5. I had Oklahoma State hitting the under of 8.5. I had Cincinnati hitting the over. I had UCF going under 6.5. So I mean, ultimately, I think I did fairly well in that way. I had Kansas pushing 8, which is not going to happen. So there's a few misses here or there, but for the most part, I hit that. But yeah, I expected Baylor's defense to be dramatically improved. It has not. Not only has it not been improved, it's actually been worse than what last year was. Last year, their defense gave up a ton of big plays. This year, they're giving up the big plays, the small plays, all the plays. We'll see. We'll see how much it changes because they did just give only 3 points to UCF and got stops in 10 of 11 drives and looked really good defensively for the first time all season and really in the last 2 seasons. We'll see if that sticks. But, yeah, I mean, my biggest miss was Baylor. If just looking at my preseason rankings, Baylor 1, Texas Tech 2, Arizona State 3, Kansas State 4, TCU 5. So did not have BYU high enough, did not have Utah high enough. I had those guys 8 and 9. Also, I had Cincinnati at 10, probably higher than a lot of other people. And I had Houston far too low. I had them at 14. UCF at 16, Oklahoma State at 15. So I was fairly close there. But I would say my biggest miss was Baylor. You?
What was your biggest triumph as I scroll through my notes section of my phone to try and find my preseason poll?
Yeah, I mean, I think on an individual school basis, you know, I did pretty well hitting the win total.
Yeah, you hit a lot of totals.
So I would say that's my biggest triumph. I mean, saying Texas Tech would be good is probably not much of a triumph considering, yeah, of course they're going to be good. They have a ton of talent. Picking Oklahoma State to be really bad, probably another one. I probably should have picked them 16. I picked them 15th in the Big 12 in the preseason rankings. But, I mean, I think the biggest miss, again, was Utah and BYU being 8 and 9 in my Big 12 rankings preseason.
Okay.
You?
My biggest misses were K-State and Baylor. And that's why I look right now at the middle part of the Big 12 standings because you have Baylor, Kansas, and Kansas State in a 3-way tie, all at 3-3 in league play. Baylor and KU are 5-4 overall. Kansas State is 4-5. I had K-State making the Big 12 championship game. Way off on that one. I had Utah preseason 4th. I had Iowa State preseason 6th. And then I had Kansas and Cincinnati. I was probably a little too high on KU, obviously, but I liked Cincinnati, so we'll pat myself on the back a little bit for that one. I had Houston preseason 9th in the conference. Higher than most, I would say. But my biggest misses were BYU. I had BYU way down. I thought without Jake Retzloff, I thought the way that he made plays late in games with just kind of his swagger, I thought he had the things that you can't coach, but I didn't know Bear Bachmeier has them too.
Yeah.
And Bear Bachmeier is a much better runner. And I think the offense and the system actually fits his skill set better than a traditional pocket passing quarterback. So could not have been more wrong, I would say, on BYU. I had them way too low, and I'm all in on this BYU team, man. I cannot wait for Saturday.
Well, and I think one of the other things about BYU that certainly I didn't overlook, but I figured they'd regress to the mean on turnovers and defensive and non-offensive touchdowns, which has not been the case. But traditionally, year over year, those things tend to even out. If you had a lot of turnovers or you had great turnover luck one year, it tends to even out the next year, and that is not something that's happened. They're still scoring on defense. They're still, manufacturing turnovers. I don't know what their turnover number is overall, but like that's one thing where I was like, man, how good is their defense going to be if they're not getting as many turnovers? And that has not changed this year, which is a huge miss on my part. I also think I didn't think as highly of Utah's offensive and defensive lines as I should have, and like even though I thought that Devin Dampier had flaws, maybe I was adjusting and overcorrecting far too much to what the media's love of Utah. like the media was obsessed with Utah, and I was like, well, they were obsessed with Utah last year, and they came in and did not look very good. So I was kind of like, I think part of my thoughts and expectations on Utah were that they'd crash back to earth, not crash back to earth because they weren't good last year, that they wouldn't be as good as people thought they would.
So last year, I would say that the teams in this conference that were most impacted by injuries or unforeseen circumstances last season would have been probably Utah at the front of the line. They had so many injuries. They played 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. They went 5-7. But this year, like when the season's over, which Big 12 teams do you think will look back and say, man, we were decimated by injuries. What a season we could have had we had X, Y, and Z versus how we ended up.
Arizona State?
Yep.
They're at the front of the room there. And that's why I think, like, Texas Tech lost to Arizona State with Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson playing. That this season has been, like seeing a solar eclipse. It just hasn't happened very often. And so, like, the context of, Texas Tech lost to Arizona State, but they lost to, like, Arizona State that was fully loaded and a team that very well would have competed for a Big 12 championship. The fact that Arizona State still is where they are is a testament to their depth and their coaching. I mean, they're what?
They're 6-3.
6-3 with 2 losses in the conference.
And they play West Virginia at Colorado and Arizona to wrap up the season. And they get West Virginia and Arizona at home. Like they could win all 3 of those games.
Probably
Sims
should.
at quarterback.
They probably should win all 3 of those games with Sims at quarterback.
Which means they would finish the year 9-3 and 7-2 in Big 12 play, with Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson missing significant time this season and losing Cam Scatterbo to the NFL. Like, what does that say about Kenny Dillingham and his ability to coach in this league?
Yeah, I mean, I think it says exactly what we think it is, which is that he is one of the best coaches in the country, and that Arizona State, the stroke of luck that they had to have this guy that is a grad and from the area. I mean, he's the betting favorite. According to betonline.ag, which, it's an offshore book, so do with it what you would like. Kenny Dillingham's the betting favorite to be named the Auburn coach. Go ahead and place a bet on that. Like, don't, because that's not a good idea. It's not going to happen. Kenny Dillingham's from the area as a grad. There's just no way. Like, Arizona State, are we talking about, like, getting paid $6 million or $11 million, right? I mean, if he's sought after by other programs, he's going to get a raise. It's worth every dime to that program because of how successful he's been. And most teams would pack it in based on the losses that they've had, and yet here they are. It's impressive. It's extremely impressive. And it shouldn't be any more impressive because this is what we should expect from Kenny Dillingham.
Why would he leave Arizona State? He grew up in Phoenix.
He's not.
He went to Arizona State. Like, this is his dream job, and he has shown that
he can win there.
He can win and play in the biggest games in the country. Like, they made the college football playoff.
He can coach us at Arizona State as long as he wants. If let's just say Auburn came calling, like, why would you?
He had a brief stop at Auburn, so I'm sure that they will at least place a phone call.
But why would you, like, how many coaches have they hired and fired in the last decade? I mean, they have their boosters are running that athletic department. It is a train wreck. So you go, if you're Kenny Dillingham, from your home, your alma mater, your wife's alma mater, in a place that you could basically coach forever if you want, to Auburn, where you've got to rebuild a roster, you've got to win in a spot where there's lots of teams competing for the best players. Oh, and by the way, if there's one thing that they've shown, it's that you've got to listen to the boosters and that they're dictating how long you're going to be there and how many coaches has Auburn hired and fired in the last decade. Like, it makes, I don't know if anything can make negative sense, but it makes negative sense. Like, not only does it make 0 sense, like, if you placed any wager on Kenny Dillingham being named the next coach at Auburn, you are flushing money down the toilet.
It's below freezing sense-wise to talk about that. Also, I think Sam Levitt comes back next year.
Is that a Hugh Freeze thing? I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Like, he's having foot surgery. He's going to miss the rest of the season. This is not like peak where he could be drafted in the NFL draft. And he told us on this very program that that's his end-all be-all goal, is he wants to be an NFL quarterback. He grew up admiring Justin Herbert. It's a big reason why he's with Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he technically he could enter for this upcoming draft, but he's listed as like the 10th quarterback right now because of the injury setback. I think he comes back.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, Auburn has hired and fired now 3 coaches in the last 6 years, and it's 5 if you include the 2 interim coaches they've had in that period of time. So they've had 5 different head coaches, and they've hired and fired 3 coaches in 6 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so, like, first of all, who wants that job? You know, like,
Yeah.
based on how much control and power the Auburn boosters have, and it's a lot, who wants that job?
Not me. I don't want it. Kenny Dillingham doesn't want it.
No way.
All right, coming up next, Talia Goodman, the reporter.
Talia.
Talia, thank you. See, it's the
So got
I.
names again.
Talia Goodman, reporter for
Talia
On3.
is at Baylor.
Talia Scott's at Baylor.
Talia
Goodman
is joining us next.
is joining us next. She's a women's basketball reporter for On3 Sports here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. Brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. With R.A. Timken, I'm James Westling. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, Big12Studios.com. And we are now joined, talking some women's basketball, by Talia Goodman, reporter for On3 Sports. Talia, what's up?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We're good. Huge win. Huge win last night for the Baylor women. Also, Arizona State, first-year head coach Molly Miller earns her first win, but it got a little bit dicey at times against Coppin State. Apparently there's, like a new victory bell that the team is ringing when Arizona State wins a game?
I don't know if that's new or if I just didn't notice it before, but I like it. I saw it after the game last night, and I thought it was a cool addition. But Molly Miller, that doesn't surprise me. She does a lot of cool traditions, whether it's with the bands at her school or just, uniting fans together.
All right, so the big one for the Big 12 was the win by Baylor in Paris. How big of a win was that, Talia?
Huge. And I would like to be the first to admit I was completely underrating Baylor. I didn't have them in my top 25, which might be the biggest mistake, I made preseason after watching them yesterday because, boy, what Talia Scott can do. Oh, I haven't seen her play, obviously, in a while. She was sidelined with injury last year at Auburn. But her freshman campaign at Arkansas, she was a phenomenal scoring threat, and it looks like she's right back to it here at Baylor.
So what was the biggest thing that stood out to you that surprised you in terms of Baylor?
I think they're a little bit deeper than I originally thought. I think there's still some kids maybe they're waiting to lean on a little bit. And I know Ella Brow didn't play, and I think she'll be a big part of what they do. Don't know what her timeline looks like yet, but I think when they get her back, she'll help. But I think, from what we can see, obviously they have length, they have depth. And they have talent. I mean, Duke is known for stifling teams defensively and not allowing them to get things done, and they really could not stop Talia Scott. So I think she's going to be, the spark plug this year for them.
Who else stood out to you from a Big 12 perspective from last night?
Yeah, Arizona State was the one that I watched the most of other than Baylor, just because that game was a little bit close. They gave them some trouble there at Coppin State, but it's a brand new team in Phoenix, and I think Molly Miller's going to do a great job there, and they came through in the end. I think it'll be interesting to see how they develop. I don't know if they'll, make the top half of the Big 12, but it'll be a fun season nonetheless. And then Oklahoma State, I went to turn it on, and they were already up like 35. So I said, all right, I'll watch them when they maybe play some better competition, but they're going to be really, really good this year too.
From what you saw and what you know about Oklahoma State, J.C. Hoyt had a breakthrough year last year with Oklahoma State. They get to the tournament. What did you see, and how would you summarize, what they look like this season and their pieces?
I mean, you talk about deep. I think they might be the deepest team in the Big 12. I do. I think maybe TCU would fight them for that title, but I think Oklahoma State might have it. I mean, they bring in one of the best portal classes in the country with some really underrated kids like Haley Timmer from South Dakota State, Amari Whiting from BYU, who I think will be a huge part of what they do and will only progress as the season goes. I like their freshman, Lena Girardi, a lot. And then you bring back someone like, Staley Hurd and Jaden Wooten, who had phenomenal seasons last year and really went underrated. And I was talking to them about this kind of this summer about, they were a top 25 team. They had a breakthrough year and still no one was really talking about it. And I think this is the year that people will really notice and they won't overlook Oklahoma State when they're playing them.
Who, from a individual performance basis, who stood out to you yesterday and last night?
There were I'm forgetting who right now. I had it written down somewhere, but I'm doing my takeaways, and there are like 3 Oklahoma State players that had like insane stat lines. Amari Whiting was one of them, I think. Micah Gray might have been another one. I think she went nuts, had like 15 and 15 maybe. So they definitely stood out. Talia Scott, obviously, 24 points, and just what she was able to do on the floor, I feel like didn't even necessarily all show up on the stat sheet. And then, Doriana Little-Page Buggs from Baylor is someone who maybe went a little underrated in her performance. She had a double-double. She's always, reliable, doesn't really have those off days. So she really stood out to me in a big-time performance, right? Because that was the best game of the day yesterday. So when you can have a double-double against a top 10 team in Duke, that's always impressive.
Talking with Talia Goodman, covers women's basketball for On3 Sports. Here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, Baylor is the first Big 12 team to take down a top 10 opponent in the season opener since 2009. want to pivot a little bit when it comes to some of the games tonight because not everybody played. I got to ask about Cincinnati and this Dee Alexander. She's a 5-star recruit, the highest-ranked recruit in program history. Number 11 in the final ESPN women's basketball rankings. Like, can you put into perspective, because on the men's side, there's so many good freshmen in A.J. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson, and Koa Pete goes for 30 last night for Arizona. Is Dee Alexander on that level on the women's side?
Yes, she absolutely is, and I wish she was going to be playing. They announced that she's going to be out for a little bit this year, which is really unfortunate because I think she really is the difference maker for this team and the best recruit they possibly could have gotten because she's a hometown kid. They have that pull there, and it was huge when she announced that she was going there. So I think if they had her on the floor, and I don't know when they're getting her back, she put something out saying, she will hopefully be back this season. So when she's back, I think we'll see, a drastic increase in their ceiling.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. You don't know when she's going to be back or how much time she's going to miss?
I don't think she knows. It sounds like it's going to be more, long term than just a few weeks or even a month based on the fact that, she put out a post about it. So I would assume it's going to be a little bit more long term, and the athletics department put out a statement as well. So I don't have an exact timeline. Hopefully by conference play would be my hope for her.
Yeah, I'm curious, does the Big 12 have any national championship contenders in your eyes?
Yeah, TCU would be the one, but I don't know if they're necessarily a title contender. I think I wouldn't, and I said this the other day to someone, I wouldn't bat an eye if they made, another Elite Eight or even a Final Four. I'd be like, all right, they have the talent to do it. And Mark Campbell is such a phenomenal coach. You saw what he did with players like Sedona Prince and Haley Van Lith. And he recruits those type of kids that have chips on their shoulder. And I think Olivia Miles is obviously a star, and she's going to do great things. And their length beyond that is very impressive and makes them a contender in that regard. But I don't know if you compare them to a UConn, to even a South Carolina, who maybe doesn't have the same depth, but has maybe better talent. I don't know if they'd beat them in a title game.
Talia, why is it in women's basketball that we get some scores like we had last night with Oklahoma State winning 106 to 40 something, and Kansas State won 100 to 35? Is it that the talent pool just isn't as deep maybe, or what in your eyes leads to some of these just ginormous discrepancies?
Sure, there's definitely some of that. I actually think it's gotten a lot better. If you look from last year to this year, I think we saw a lot more of those blowouts. And you look this year, even, we're just talking about an Arizona State Coppin State game, and this is not the Coppin State of last year. That was, phenomenal. This is a new head coach, a new team. And they were able to keep up with Arizona State, and I think that's impressive. And we're seeing parity absolutely grow in the women's game. There was a lot of it Holy Cross beat Boston College last night. We're seeing a lot more parity in the game.
There was a great piece that your colleague Nick Schultz from On3 wrote, Study Women's Sports Driving Record NIL Growth as RevShare Era Begins. Curious for your perspective on that.
To be completely honest with you, I was sat on my couch all day yesterday for about 14 hours watching basketball. So I didn't get to read it in depth, but based on kind of conversations with people and me kind of skimming it a little bit quickly, the social media aspect is something that really stands out to me with the followings of these women. They really, really try to grow their brand, and that's something they're considering when they choose a school too, is the brand of that school. So I think that helps in the NIL realm, and I think a lot of these programs are competitive with RevShare. You're not going to see the football numbers. No one is. You're not even going to see the men's basketball numbers at most places. But I think it's something to build on, and I think this is a good transition year to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, there was a study done by ESPN's research team, and they found that women's basketball fans, or people that watch the sport, watch it more so for the individual players, like the influencer status and the personalities and everything that you have surrounding the sport. What have you seen in terms of, is that the driving force behind the growth? Because there's been so much growth in the sport as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, it starts with Caitlin Clark, right? And I'm sure that's where that sentiment began. But now you have, the Paige Beckers, who's off in the WNBA, the AZ Buds, the Sarah Strongs on UConn. There are some teams though that I think don't have stars, and you watch them for the teams. If you talk to a South Carolina fan, they're nuts. An LSU fan, they're nuts. They love that whole team, and it's probably not one specific player that they're watching for. But I think a lot of people are watching for Hannah Hidalgo or Juju Watkins when she comes back, that kind of thing.
Is the WNBA, I know you cover college, but is the WNBA seeing an uptick too in popularity as these players move on and start playing professionally?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't cover the WNBA, so can't speak super in depth in that, but it has definitely grown more popular just from my personal experience of being on social media and talking to fans and going to games and stuff like that. It's growing very, very rapidly.
Awesome. Good stuff. Talia Goodman, a reporter for On3 Sports covering women's basketball. A phenomenal job. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks. Great talking to you guys.
Talia Goodman, reporter for On3 Sports covering women's basketball. Recapping the Duke-Baylor game in Paris, a huge win for the Baylor Bears. The Big 12 had an undefeated night yesterday in women's basketball. The league looked really good as the league started, 9-0, went undefeated for the second year in a row on opening night. It's the second consecutive season that the Big 12 has played at least 8 games on the opening day of the season and going unbeaten. And then one more note, K-State's Taryn Sides. K-State won 100-35 or something like that. But Sides became the first Big 12 player since at least 1999 to have 15 points and 12 assists in a game with 0 turnovers. How about that? Some history made on opening night.
Well, and the big question we asked Talia was about like how many national championship contenders does the Big 12 have? And I think at this point, Big 12 has some teams that could potentially get there, but we'll have to see. I mean, K-State's one of them, certainly. But there's a ton of talent on K-State, Iowa State, Baylor, and TCU. 4 teams that stand out as being the potential teams that could, maybe be competing towards the top of the league or the top of college basketball.
What about Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State, good call. Thank you. Another one I missed. I'd say those for sure will be competing towards the top of this conference, and ergo will be competing for a national championship. But remember, like, UConn's stacked. We've seen South Carolina be stacked, right? So it's there's less parity in the sport. Talia said there's probably more now than ever before, but still, it feels like you got to be one of those top 4 seeds to give yourself a shot.
It's wild. Like, you look at South Carolina, and their leading scorer will average 11 or 12 points per game. But then they have 9 players that average 7 or 8 or 9 points per game. And any of those players can go off for 15 or 20 on any given night. It's just wild to see. All right, that is our women's basketball talk. Special thanks to Talia Goodman from On3 Sports for joining us. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Coming up next, we start an early look at some of the Big 12 previews and lines for a jam-packed, loaded college football weekend in this conference. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. And our games of the week this weekend feature BYU at Texas Tech at noon Eastern, followed by Kansas at Arizona at 3:30 Eastern. Big game for your Hawks, Rock Chalk.
Yeah, and only one team can win a national championship, but there are other successes to have during the season, right? Which is why I want to thank Matt Brown from Extra Points, who has this article out, who is selling the most booze at football games this year. They use the Freedom of Information Act to find out.
Okay.
Worth noting here that they opened open records requests with 45 public institutions at the start of October, asking for total alcohol unit sales numbers for home games across August and September, as well as total revenue. Some schools were unable to share data with us because they do not control their own concession sales. That might be because the stadium owners control concessions in the cases of UCLA, South Florida, or because concession sales and operations have been completely outsourced, like in the case of Ohio State. So you want to take a stab at who's number one?
Yeah, do you have all the Big 12, do you have the rankings for the league?
No.
Okay, so this is nationally?
Correct.
I would still think Texas Tech would be up there.
In fact, on this list, Texas Tech, there's only one Big 12 school on this list.
In the top, what? Top 25? Top 50? Top 10? Ballpark.
20.
Top 20.
Only one Big 12
One Big
school.
12 school.
Yeah.
This is sold in the stadium?
Yep.
Oh, man. West Virginia.
Boom. West Virginia, good call. They're just shy of $1 million in total revenue off of booze.
Wow.
You want to take a stab at who number one is?
In the country?
Yeah, in the country.
Give me a conference.
Big Ten.
Big Ten. I was thinking LSU maybe. Big Ten.
Big Ten owns the first top two.
What?
LSU is fourth.
Big Ten?
Big Ten actually owns
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin. Boom. More than $1 million more than number two.
Wow.
$3 million in total revenue for the University of Wisconsin. Nebraska's two at $2 million.
Nebraska's number two?
$2 million.
Well, that's because you can't, there's not really good tailgating setups. Like Texas Tech and Kansas State and Iowa State and a lot of these other Big 12 schools, you tailgate and you drink in the parking lot.
Right.
But at those schools, they don't have great tailgate setups.
Tennessee is 3. They have a great tailgate setup. By the way, Wisconsin has a good tailgate setup.
Right around the stadium, they do? All right.
LSU is a good tailgate setup. They're at 1.4.
Okay.
Tennessee's at 1.6. Minnesota's at 1.0. And then Michigan's at 985,000.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
Did not see that one coming.
So, the Big Ten basically makes up 7 of the top 10. Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois all make the top 10.
Well, it gets cold. How are you going to warm up for the game?
I was going to say, that sounds geographical.
Yeah, very much. Seriously. Just get completely numb.
So, again,
And you have to watch Big Ten football.
some other programs.
17 to 13 games. It all adds. It all makes sense.
Some of the teams and programs unable to be a part of this because, again, if they don't control their own concessions or their stadium, then they're not going to be a part of this. But, yeah, just interesting to look at. Booze on campuses and at games is new. I went to the Kansas State game. It was the first time I was ever able to drink legally inside the stadium. You didn't have to bring a flask in this time.
Right.
And,
the old flask belt buckle trick.
it was great. They even had the convenience store set up at KU where I was sitting. So it's one of those you walk in and pay yourself. So I didn't have to wait in line or anything like that to get beer. It was great. I just grabbed my Modelo out of the fridge and boom, go.
That's next level.
Yeah.
You didn't have to wait in line?
No lines. Nope.
That's impressive.
That's a game changer.
I don't know if I told. I gave the new booth 7 thumbs up. If I had 7 thumbs, they'd all be up.
10 out of 10?
10 out of 10. 7 thumbs out of 7 thumbs.
How did it look?
I don't know why I said 7. Somehow that was the number that
7's a popular number this week.
Apparently.
We had 7 on the program. You've got 7 thumbs. How was the booth aesthetically?
Amazing.
Because they're still doing like how many phases are there? I get confused about.
So then, I mean, the stadium will be fully done in 2027 when like the whole east side of the stadium will be turned into a hotel, convention center, restaurants. But I mean, it looked amazing. Walking up and just seeing how different it looked, and yeah, I mean, it was an incredible experience.
Timeout. They're putting a hotel,
Convention center, and
restaurants.
Yes.
In the stadium.
Well, yeah. I mean, on the stadium.
On the stadium.
Yeah.
What?
That's it. Yeah.
I haven't seen the blueprint apparently for phase 4, whatever phase that is.
It's one of the phases. I think it's a big reason for why they're able to get some state funds that some of your K-Staters are upset about was because it's convention center.
I ain't paying for that.
Yeah, no, of course not. Why would you? You're paying for a lot of things you don't want to pay for. In fact, you're not paying for anything. You don't pay taxes in the state of Kansas
No,
anymore.
I ain't doing that.
You're paying tax in the state of Texas. So there are lots of things that you pay for you don't want to pay for. Just look
Technically,
deeper
no.
at that. No,
Technically, no.
you're not.
I mean, I've changed my address.
Can the Internal Revenue Service find James Westling and make him pay?
I'm a nomad. It's not at all true.
You pay property taxes, like you pay.
Hey, tolls.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any tax that we like to pay? I mean,
No, nobody likes taxes.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing.
yeah, we're all paying.
We
for
like
stuff
nice
we
things,
don't
but
like.
we don't want to pay for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
We want other people to pay for it, not us.
It's true. Other people that make more money than us.
Well, speaking of booze, Texas Tech, they've got a bunch of uniforms they've been rolling out this Saturday.
Speaking of booze,
Speaking of booze, I'm getting there. You're going to see the segue, and it is flawless, let me tell you. Texas Tech's rolling out these new galvanized uniforms from the Patrick Mahomes line. They're going to be wearing all white. BYU said, hold my Modelo, because BYU's rolling out new lids in Lubbock this Saturday. They're like chrome royal blue, and they've got the Sailor Coug logo. Instead of their traditional logo, they're busting out the old school throwback Sailor Coug on their helmets. And so if you turn that game on television, you can listen to it here on Big 12 Radio this weekend. It's one of our games of the week. But if you're watching on TV and you're like, who's at home? Yeah, Texas Tech's at home, but they're going to be in all white, and BYU is going to be in all royal blue with their new throwback helmets.
interesting. I'm looking right now to try to find it, but
It's in the rundown.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't realize they had a Sailor throwback.
Oh, they got us. This is new. It's a new lid. You didn't realize BYU had like a Sailor throwback logo?
Sorry, BYU. I thought you were saying Tech.
No, Texas Tech is wearing their Patrick Mahomes all white galvanized uniform. It's not galvanized. It's galvanized uniform. All right?
Well, that's why I was like, I didn't realize Texas Tech had a Sailor uniform. Well, they don't. Or a Sailor logo. They don't.
They don't. It's hard to follow.
But BYU does.
BYU has the Sailor Coug.
Yep.
Okay, so BYU is going to be in all blue. Texas Tech's going to be in all white on Saturday.
Those are pretty sick lids.
Aren't they?
Yeah. They should wear those all the time.
Yes, they should.
Those are amazing. They're just like a chrome blue with the BYU Sailor logo. Those are sick. Big
Yeah,
fan.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. The line, by the way, on this game, Texas Tech is favored by 10.5. 10.5. I mean, we thought the Utah-Cincinnati line was just outrageous. We know how that turned out. But 10.5?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when you look at like the SP Plus differential, maybe it makes a little bit more sense. Because basically it's like a 7-point difference between their SP Plus values, and then you add the 3 at home, and there you go. So maybe that's a big reason why. Look, I think Vegas hasn't totally understood how good BYU is this year, in the same way that many haven't, probably us included. We probably have underrated them to a degree, maybe not as large as Vegas has. I definitely see this game being closer than, than 2 scores. I mean, I see this being a 1-score finish. But yeah, I mean, it definitely stands out. Like when I first saw it, I was like, wow, that's crazy to think that this is an undefeated BYU team. It's a top 10 matchup, and they're 10.5-point favorites. the game within the game here in this early preview of it, and we're going to talk about this game a ton this week, would be Tech's tempo versus BYU's slow, deliberate style. Texas Tech is a top 10 pace team in the country. BYU is a bottom 10 pace team in the country. So who controls the tempo of this game? How fast are these teams able to play? And is the slowness of BYU going to slow down Texas Tech, or the opposite? Is the speed of Texas Tech going to speed up BYU? Also, LJ Martin did return to practice this week, so I think there's hopes that he'll play, and Jack Kelly too. So both huge injury potentials on the BYU side. But if LJ Martin's unable to go, I would think that'd be a huge disadvantage in this game for BYU, because he's so important for their offense. I mean, we talk about that slow, deliberate style. It depends on BYU being able to run the football effectively. And so, yeah, I mean, I think his status, he did return to practice, so hopefully he will be available to play in this game.
Yeah, and remember, he missed some time last year, like middle part of the season, and BYU relied on their passing game with Jake Retzloff at quarterback, who leaned more pass than run. Bear Bachmeier's had some really big passing games, but I think that's been dictated by them establishing the ground game. With him included, he's a big part of that. So that is definitely a big key. And I think, BYU stylistically, the way they want to beat you, I think, is a lot of ways similar to what Kansas State does. And we saw how that turned out. Now, Kansas State hung around for a while, but ultimately that game came down to who made the big play. And I'm talking about turnovers, and it was Texas Tech. So this is another game where if BYU values the football and they don't turn it over, it could end up the way that the Kansas State-Texas Tech game was trending towards, where it was really close. It was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Kansas State had the ball, and then the turnovers just snowballed. Meanwhile, if it flips to where BYU can't take care of the football, Texas Tech gets some big they're really good at jarring the ball loose, like just wrenching it away from ball carriers. So if LJ Martin doesn't play, like that's another thing that you have to look out for, is them getting takeaways with these fumbles.
Yeah, I mean, the one area, so where BYU could win this game is through special teams, is by winning the turnover battle, and LJ Martin and the running attack slowing down Texas Tech. I think that's the path towards BYU pulling the upset here. Texas Tech's special teams has not been great. Maybe they've found something here with Stone Harrington. But, I mean, BYU has one of the best special teams. I think they're top 10 in the country. So whereas Tech is top 10 in both offense and defense, BYU is top 10 in special teams, which could be a major advantageous spot for them in this game. But, like, Aaron Roderick, the BYU offensive coordinator, I think has done a really good job this year in game planning week to week to put BYU in the best offensive situations. And that has allowed Bear Bachmeier to blossom. And you've said it a lot, Bear's not playing like a freshman anymore. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. Even though he is still a freshman, he's not playing like one because he's seen a lot now. Right? I mean, at this point in the year, there's not much defenses can do to him that he hasn't seen, except for David Bailey and Romello Height.
Right.
Because you're just not used to playing teams that have basically two NFL edge rushers. And that's the chess battle here, aside from the pace part, whereas Texas Tech speeds you up, BYU slows you down. The pace part is really an interesting game within the game. The other one to me is, like, what's the game plan for Aaron Roderick to try to keep his quarterback clean? Because that's been a very difficult task for the rest of the Big 12 in going up against David Bailey and Romello Height.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that, Texas Tech did much better against Kansas State is they didn't beat themselves with a bunch of silly penalties. They were only penalized 4 times in their game against K-State for 21 yards. This season, they rank 103rd nationally in penalty yards. And going into the K-State game, they were in like the 120s. It had been really bad. So for them to start doing those little things, winning the turnover margin, not getting silly penalties or pre-snap or post-snap penalties, just takes their game to a whole nother level. And then the health of Behren Morton. He looked healthy against Kansas State. I thought he made all the right throws. Kansas State got him to the ground several times and had some punishing hits where I thought, man, I'm not sure he's getting back up. He is a tough cookie. He just kept bouncing back up. He wants to be out there more than anybody else on that football team. And, I think that's another thing I look at is how many hits does BYU get on Barron Morton in this football game, because they're really good defensively.
Well, and the reality of the situation is we've talked a ton about the Big 12 getting multiple bids to the playoff. Barron Morton's health is a huge part of that. And it's just very precarious this time of year, right? Like a lot of hits, a lot of football, very physical sport, and you're getting closer and closer to that finish line, especially without Will Hammond. Like, it's an obvious statement, but all of the things that Texas Tech can do and from a goal perspective wants to do is all about the health of Barron Morton and keeping him clean. That's it. So, I mean, this is a game that you've got to really pay attention if you're Texas Tech. And when you look at the rest of Texas Tech's schedule, like, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like UCF. I mean, they basically have 3 extremely winnable games following this one. So if they get past this one and get out of this game healthy with Barron Morton, then, I mean, you're not going to have much in terms of resistance the rest of the way.
Remember, BYU was 8-0 this time last year going into this week. And BYU, they play TCU at home on the 15th. Then they play at Cincinnati. And then they wrap up the regular season against UCF. What's the best case scenario if we're looking at this big picture for the league and this game in particular? Number one, I think it just needs to be close. As long as one team doesn't blow out the other, I think the Big 12 is going to be in a really good position. But how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was just trying to think through, like, what's the best case scenario for the Big 12 in terms of, like, potential to get 2 teams, maybe even 3. Seems outrageous, but I don't think quite out of the question yet, depending on what happens. What's the best path? I mean, I think Utah, Texas Tech, BYU being in the mix.
Oh, yeah.
Is probably, like, of those, Cincinnati still has the 1 loss, but will they have the same cachet as a BYU, a Utah, or a Texas Tech, right? So much of this is about perception. It's an unfortunate conversation to have because we're looking at what's the best for the perception of the Big 12. I think at this point, for what BYU's done now in 2 consecutive seasons, Utah has that cachet and Texas Tech does too. Best case scenario for this conference is those 3 competing towards the end of the year for the Big 12 championship, which right now is the case. The one is, will Cincinnati lose again? Will Houston lose again? Houston has, 2 losses in conference? Yeah, they've got Texas Tech. But Cincinnati has the 1.
And Houston's only favored, by the way, by 1.5 points at UCF this Saturday. I'm with you. I mean, we ran these simulations yesterday. Best case scenario for the Big 12. Now, BYU and Cincinnati play each other next weekend. For that best case scenario, 2 teams definitely in, a 3rd team on the fence. BYU needs to beat Cincinnati.
Yep.
No offense, Bearcats. Love that Cincinnati team, but the best path for the Big 12 to have the best chance of getting 2 and maybe 3 in is Texas Tech beats BYU this weekend. BYU wins out. They meet again in the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech beats BYU there as well. So they have 2 losses, but they're 2 losses to the same team, and they beat everybody else on their schedule. Utah runs the table the rest of the way. That wouldn't put them in the Big 12 championship, but they'd be 10-2 and ranked around 9 or 10 on that final college football playoff selection Sunday or whatever you want to call it, getting ready for who's in and who's out. That's it. That's the path. That's it. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We'll wrap up the program coming up next. He's Ari, I'm James. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. It's Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. One final time from our Dallas studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Our Big 12 Radio games of the week for this weekend. BYU at Texas Tech. We started to preview that game just moments ago. It's at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. And then KU at Arizona. What are you calling that game? The
Bowl Eligibility Bowl.
Bowl Eligibility Bowl. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time. How are you feeling about that one, by the way?
Pretty good. Yeah, look, I think Kansas has 3 chances here to get to bowl eligible. Arizona, Iowa State, and Utah. I think 2 of those 3 are winnable, especially given how Iowa State's defense has played of late.
Is that game in Lawrence?
No. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a chance they go for over 3 and end up 5-7 yet again, which I think would be devastating. But I feel good about one of these next 2. I do.
This year kind of reminds me of Todd Reesing's last year for KU when they had guys and they had Todd Reesing, who's the all-time career leader at Kansas in passing yards, and they went 5-7 his last year. Like they were in every game, but they just couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah.
They lost some games they shouldn't lose. It's just a weird year.
Yeah, I mean, and it's probably been that way this season for Kansas to a
Right.
degree, but I mean, which games have they lost that they shouldn't have?
K-State at home.
Yeah, but not like in the game, like the way the game played out, there was no,
Right.
like, yeah, before the game started, they should have won it, but we don't have to relitigate that.
Can we deep dive how you felt in the second quarter? I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. It's basketball season. Darren Peterson.
Cold and rainy is how I felt. Enjoying the new stadium, but unhappy about the game. Second quarter was okay. It felt like we were still in it. It was really the third quarter where things got out of hand.
That's when it blew open.
And my wife's like, should we leave? Can we leave? Can we leave?
Oh,
Yeah.
did you leave early?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't have a choice. I was going to leave, let my family walk by themselves. We walked with some of our good friends from college. Their parents live in Lawrence, and we walked for their house. So we went and hung out, watched the end of the game there at their house. It was
Okay.
very close.
Growing up, my dad had a very strict "we don't leave until the final buzzer" policy. It didn't matter if the team we were watching was up by 40 or down by 40. It didn't matter if we were going to sit in parking lot traffic for hours.
Good policy.
We were not leaving early.
I feel like a lot of dads had that.
I love your dad's policy. That's my policy in my home.
That's your policy.
I will never stop watching a game, or whether I'm watching it on TV or if I'm there in person, I will never stop watching the game until it says final.
Yeah, if my kids and wife weren't there, I would have stayed. Does that help? My kids will not say that ever. Oh, our dad had a policy where we couldn't leave games.
Right, yeah, to be fair.
Our dad had a policy. Our mom had a totally different policy, and the policy was we'll leave when we want to leave.
Yeah. I remember being like, we could, like, once I hit high school, I kind of started to figure out that, hey, we sit in a parking lot traffic for a long time. And then I realized it's because he wanted to catch the post-game show on radio. So it was by design that we would wait until the final horn so that we could sit in parking lot traffic and catch Coach Billy Snyder on his post-game show.
Checkers, chess.
Exactly. What is that? Just like,
People in our undisclosed location, they're maybe they know where we are now.
are they right there? That is loud.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to some podcasts on my drives.
You've kind of, like, you've been very outspoken about this. Like, almost
I want to
as
get
if
your thoughts.
You're like thumbing our nose. You're like, look how smart I am. I'm listening to podcasts. Look at me.
Simple James ain't walking through that door.
Look at me.
I'm listening to podcasts.
I drink
now.
red wine. I'm listening to podcasts.
I am listening to some podcasts, some pods.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, off air about
Okay.
this AI future that we're living in real time, and how these bot farms are taking over social media. Which, after you told me that about X or Twitter, that what is it just that platform, or is it all platforms that over half of the internet users are bots?
Yeah. So over half of the internet is bots, and then when you zoom in further, the active users of Twitter, it's like, I think the number is basically 3.5 out of 10 Americans use it daily. So, okay, so Whereas like YouTube is like 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 Americans use it every day. It's 3.5 out of 10 on Twitter, which means so if half the internet is bots and only 35% of Americans are on Twitter, like that is a very, very low number of actual human beings that are engaging on that platform.
That's wild. And yeah, these bot farms, which are just massive compounds of computers, and they're talking about how there were like actual phones in this one, bot
Wait,
farm.
so what's the podcast called?
This one was, and I don't know anything about it. I popped on Apple Podcasts. This was the Sean Ryan podcast.
Okay, yeah.
You listen to him?
No, I mean,
I don't know much about it.
I follow him on Twitter.
Okay.
He's, I think he's pretty good.
Claims to be, like right down the middle. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But he had this guest on.
Ask 10 people, and the people on the left will tell you he's right. The people on the right will tell you he's probably too left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So he had this guest on, and they were talking about all this AI stuff. And he runs an Instagram account, and he said when he posts something on Instagram, not Sean Ryan, the guest, when he posts something on Instagram, he knows, who the bots are because a human cannot type out 2 or 3 lines and have it instantly be a comment on your post. So he knows that's a bot, which is how a lot of these work, right? They just hope that you don't catch it, that you're not paying attention. And he goes and he said that some like these AI influencers, these bots are getting so advanced that usually in the past or even now you can tell. Like you click on somebody and they're following thousands of people and they have like 2 followers and their profile picture looks a little sketch and there's a lot of evidence there that they're not a real person. But he said now like these bots will have, thousands of followers and be following thousands of people and they'll have a family and like a fake AI generated wife and they'll be tagging each other in posts. Like it's going to the next level.
Oh yeah. And not only, so, like the idea of like, you can tell in the comments who's a bot or not. Like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like the reality is with so much posting and it's a concentrated effort on one particular topic, it's changing the algorithm. And so the reality is, most of these bots, their comments and their tweets are the ones you're going to see the most because they are basically genetically modified, if you will, genetically engineered, if you will. Obviously not exactly the right term, but like
AI generated,
created to hit certain things that will blow up. And when there's 75 accounts tweeting the same thing, it's going to tip the algorithm that people care about it. So like we could tell 100 of our friends, hey, go find this show on YouTube and hit the like button. But that's like human beings doing something that essentially robots are able to do in real time at a much quicker speed, at a much larger degree, with a much higher volume of people,
right,
accounts, quote unquote. But so like that's the big picture thing here is the amount in which, the way in which these bot farms are dictating the topics in the algorithm, and it skews reality.
Exactly.
You think the world is one way, and then you step outside into the real world and realize it's not as bad as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it?
Mm-hmm.
And the more and more that we disengage from the real world and re-engage within these digital universes and digital neighborhoods, the more and more we become disconnected and disinterested in the world around us because we think the world's a really bad place when it may not be as bad as we think it is. And that's why I brought up the thing about Halloween yesterday is like, wow, what a breath of fresh air to actually engage with our neighbors in a physical way so that we can know like, hey, here's human beings that we're engaging with that are like fully formed, that have like, a whole multitude of opinions and thoughts and beliefs that aren't just, binary.
Yeah.
I think like on the internet, people, bots, individuals are binary. Right, left. You either are one or the other, as opposed to like in a real physical space, you could have an actual meaningful discussion with somebody that may in some ways be left, in some ways be right, in some ways be center, but reasonable at that.
Right. And I think that with this AI and just how rapidly it is advancing, it's okay to question what the truth really is and isn't. And I think that...
But there is no truth then, and I think that's the scary part,
Yes.
especially with deepfakes.
Right. But I also think we're at a point where it's okay to question the truth and not be like stereotyped as some crazy conspiracy theorist. And I tie this back to the Big 12. Remember the Kenny Dillingham video of him doing the worm, and he said, "Oh, it's fake, it's AI generated."
But it wasn't.
But it wasn't. It was
Right.
actually him. But it looked like it could have been AI generated. And I scrolled Twitter for this is exaggerating, hours trying to find out if it was real or if it was AI generated, because most people cannot tell the difference. But this did note that our generation, millennials, are you a millennial, Taman?
Absolutely.
Are you?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, because you're younger than us. We are like the first generation to really start to question and be a little more skeptical of what's real and what isn't, because we are kind of coming up with this AI world.
But again, in a world in which half of the internet traffic is bots, and that's only growing, yet we view that world as real, but it's half real, half not. Mm-hmm. And then even when you have people that are real that are trying to engage in their own truth, like what is suddenly now the truth is not exactly the truth.
I think that's the problem with social media. It feels like it's peaked. It feels like we didn't.
There's no question it's peaked.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't appreciate like MySpace when it first came out, or Facebook back in 2004 or 5 when it was just beginning. Now we've reached a level of bots can kind of control information, and nobody knows what's real or unreal. And even if you question it, like you said, Ari, when you're on social media, you're always going to be labeled as one or the other when you can't. When in reality, that's just not the case.
Well, think about how this plays out in real life, okay? So you see something on Twitter, social media, Facebook, and then maybe you don't read further into it, and more than likely it verifies your beliefs, so it's part of your belief system anyways. Oh, did you see what that guy did? Then you go out and tell a friend, did you see what that guy did? What? Oh, no, I just saw this post that he did that and the other, and it might not even be true, but it's gone. It's now been spread by other people, and that's like that continues to manifest itself in so many different ways to where now you're concocting that as a reality. That's why like we talk about truths as in like what is real and not, and just think about a world in which people will knowingly or unknowingly share information with friends that isn't real, that in their mind over time they've concocted as real, and now like that belief just continues to spread. And then like again on the truth side of things, like the depth of deepfakes, like we are approaching a world in which you could see video of somebody doing something,
Yep.
and they could say, "I didn't do that. It was a deepfake," and we don't know. They might have actually done it. They might not have done it. Like think about what like the search for truth will become in the next 20 to 50 years.
We got 2 minutes. Keep going.
I mean, it's wild because you can take a video of me saying I did something in a world where deepfakes are as prevalent as they are becoming. I could say I didn't say anything. And now you're left to figure out, did I actually say it? Is that a deep fake or is it not?
Right. So they talked about this too. I'm trying this exercise. All right, I just took a picture of Ari, and I'm plugging it in to AI, and I'm going to tell it to roast you. Like I look at you, and you've got a hoodie on, you've got khakis on, these aren't your lawn mowing shoes. They're not quite your Jordans, but this will roast you
These are my lawn mowing. These are what you refer to as my lawn mowing shoes.
No, you have other shoes that are just caked in dirt and mud. So I typed this thing in here, and man, it's roasting you in 2 seconds.
I mean, you just roasted me. You basically just called me a disgusting human being.
Ari looks like he's hosting a mindfulness podcast for dads who just discovered cold brew. Bro's dressed like he's about to coach his kid's under 10 soccer team and talk NIL reform in the same breath.
But I mean, play this out.
The powder blue hoodie says Casual Friday, but his stare says my Roth IRA isn't performing.
We are about to enter a world in which you see something on the internet and you immediately think it's not true. So it's almost going to a point of the other direction.
We're going to swing the other way.
Whereas nothing is true that you see on the internet.
Totally. I told you guys I was late today because I had to get gas.
That's not true.
Yeah.
See? You didn't believe me. I was actually getting gas. I was texting you from the gas
Actually,
station.
do believe you.
You said that last time you were late, so it's just kind of hard to.
Yeah, I
believe that
forget to
twice
get gas
in
a lot, Taman.
Do you not check the gauge?
Yes,
ever?
I checked the gauge, but
You know, E means empty, not electric.
when I'm done for the day, I'm always thinking I can make it home, and I'll worry about that tomorrow. And then tomorrow hits about 5:45 in the morning.
You're like,
And
I
I'm
don't
thinking,
have gas. There's traffic outside.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
a lot-
late.
Traffic ramps up a lot.
Okay, but think about it this way. You just took a picture of me physically. You don't even have to do that. We're all over the internet. Our voice is all over the internet.
Oh, yeah.
So all somebody has to do is plug in 5 seconds of us talking and a picture of us, and they've now created a AI version of us that could do and say anything they want.
Yeah.
This is the reason I don't put my kids on the internet. I used to put a ton of pictures of my kids on Facebook and Instagram, and I don't do that anymore for that exact reason.
Don't do it.
I want them to be in control of it.
I like it. I posted on Instagram yesterday, and my wife said, I don't want your face out there. I said, we do a television show every day.
My face is out there.
It's out there. It's out there. Our voices, our faces, they're out there.
Yeah.
Chat GPT can probably write our life story. All right, that's going to put a wrap on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. You listen to us exclusively on TuneIn. You watch us. We are real people on Big 12 Studios. For Ari Timken, for our producer, Taman Turner, I'm James Westling. Coming up tomorrow, Rich Rod, West Virginia football. He'll join us on the show. Talk to you then.